everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Talk of love and battle scars, everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Protect and provide, we're knights in the fray. Nothing off limits, we got something to say. Life and love, fitness and fight all day. Guys Night Podcast, let's ride the wave.
Back to being in the military when you're overseas and you're getting tons of dollars worth of care packages and beef jerky and stuff like that, but then you get home and like most of those people don't care who you are and what you did.
Baby wipes.
Yeah, definitely baby wipes. Now they're dude wipes.
Dude wipes.
Why didn't we get? We didn't have no dude
Yeah,
wipes when I was in.
Ours literally said baby wipes.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to want you to do stuff. I said, my last day, I'm going to go sit in the parking lot and drink a beer naked, so everybody will think I've fucking lost my mind. I think I'll be-
Cheers.
Nice meeting all of you.
Cheers. That's like bad.
Thanks so much for joining us today,
Cheers,
guys.
everyone. Cheers.
All right, you guys ready?
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Guys Night Podcast. Tonight, I'm with David, as always. What's up, David?
The sky is up.
The sky is up indeed.
Yeah.
And tonight I've got some special guests joining us. You know, right now there's some interesting stats that are out there. 13% of all homeless people are currently veterans, despite them only making up 6% of the population. And over 57% of veterans are facing some form of loneliness and not knowing where to go to help. And that doesn't include all the other issues that come across as far as how to get housing, how to find the right VA loan, and the multitude of different things when it comes to benefits, how to get them, how to use them, where you can use them, et cetera. So I've been fortunate enough to make a connection with Medina County's own Veterans Office. So let's first start off by introducing Ed. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us kind of a little bit about yourself, your history with the Veterans Association, your background in military, and anything else that, to share us a little about yourself.
Well, you can look at the picture up there. I'm probably got the most history out of everybody on this podcast, so I'm not going to spend too much time. No, I retired from the Army in 2007 as a first sergeant. I taught high school for a year and then got offered this position and never looked back. I love what I do. I truly, it's a great inspiration. And, the veterans out in my waiting room had the same stories, just from different generations. It's just like the soldiers I serve with. I did a tour in Iraq, tour in Afghanistan, served over in Bosnia, spent some time in Germany. I loved the military, but it was time to go when I got out. And I'm just happy to be able to do and help the people that we help today.
That's awesome. And then we'll go to you, Jeff. Tell us a little about yourself, sir.
Right on. Nice to meet everybody.
Absolutely.
Served in the Marine Corps, early 90s. Did about 15 years. Worked in law enforcement at the beginning and then transitioned into being an interrogator in counterintelligence. Took some good injuries towards the end of my career and had to get medically retired in 2007. So by the time I got home in the end of 2007, beginning of 2008, is kind of whenever I met Ed, where by pure chance you were just starting your position. And as the day goes on, I can really explain how much he assisted me and to have me here still till today.
Who?
Awesome. And then finally, we've got Michael, who's the commander of the local VW post here in Medina, correct?
VFW.
VFW,
Yep.
Apologize. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, I'm kind of a transplant here to Ohio originally. I've been out here since 2015. I came out here for a job. I'm a Marine also. I'm the one who get picked on. I was an air winger. So everybody, when they introduced me, they're like, he was a Marine, but he was an air winger. So they always put that caveat in. And I've been in aviation my whole career, since the service all the way through. Currently, right now, I work for a private fractional ownership company, and I'm a crew chief on an ultra long range jet. So I go all around the world. Commander of the VFW. On Tuesday, I'm going to get reelected for my 5th year as commander.
Congratulations.
And in May, I'll be elected for the District 7 of Ohio district commander. So I'm one of those people who don't know how to shut up and say no.
Yeah.
But I know Ed. We work really close with him with the Veteran Service Office and that, and we just try to do good things for people in Medina County.
Awesome. Give me 1 second, guys. I just noticed his sound's a little quiet. I just want to see if I can pick that up a
It's
little bit.
also, we'll get you that and we'll move you up a little closer there and you'll be good. There it is.
I'm not gonna be able to change that mid-show. All right, no worries.
We'll just start over.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Okay, welcome to the Guys Running Podcast. Clap.
Take two.
Do the clap thing again.
Oh man. All right, so yeah, I don't even know exactly where I wanted to get started. I know, like I said earlier, I didn't even know you guys existed till about a month and a half ago. And you know, I was a veteran myself. I've been out now for almost 20 years. And a lot of the things that, you know, you hear the stories of, oh, I was able to get, I was able to get help. I was able to get my benefits. There's extra money out there available for you for housing. There's just all these different things that you hear about.
Right.
And unless you want to go down a rabbit hole of, 70 hours of YouTube videos and Google searches, I feel like a lot of people just don't know where to go and how to get that help.
Yeah, I think more often you hear, I didn't know anything about my benefits, and kind of like you 20 years later. I got out probably about the same time period you did 20 years ago. And I got to tell you, the transitional program that they had back then didn't do a good job, because I remember going through that program, and what I know today, or what I knew even a couple years into this job, is much different than what that program did. I think the militaries did a better job over the years with their TAP program for our service members getting out of the service. But you got to remember, up until maybe 10, 15 years ago, DOD is one entity, and they're there to defend the country and fight our wars, and the VA is another entity.
Sure.
And believe it or not, up until about 10 years ago, those two entities did not talk very well together at all.
No, not at all.
And had no reason to. The VA kept going, give us information. DOD is going, no, we don't have money to help you out. They're doing a better job of that. And an organization that I've been with, the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, we've pushed DOD and the VA to make it systematic, to where a veteran should get out of the service and it should be a smoother transition. They should know where to go for their benefits. Now the VA doesn't necessarily want to publicize all these other entities that are out there. They go, hey, come to the VA. But as far as like healthcare records, it used to be that your military records did not go over to the VA until you went and saw the VA for something. Where today, as soon as you go into the service, there is a record that's created in the Department of Veterans Affairs, so that when you come out, all your military records are transferred over to the VA automatically. So once you connect with the VA, then they automatically have everything they need. The other thing they're doing too is DOD is, once you get out, is they are telling you about your benefits in the VA. Now, problem is, and we all know young privates sitting there, because I sat in a room with many of them when I was getting out, they're anxious to go home, and a lot of that stuff goes through one ear and out the other. So what the VA has done is they've said, hey, let's tell these folks about their state organizations, like the State Department of Veterans Affairs and the County Department of Veterans Affairs, so that when they go home, they can connect. So I think we're seeing more action as far as trying to drive veterans towards their benefits. But again, they just get told benefits. They really don't know each and every one. So as they come up and there's a need for it, whether they remember to go back or not. Here in Medina County, we spend a lot of time and effort trying to get that word out. And I will tell you, when I took this job 17 years ago, I was at my son's baseball game, and I was talking to a guy who's a Vietnam veteran, and he said, so what do you do? And I said, hey, I just took a cool job, And he goes, I never heard of that organization. I said, well, that's a problem. So I've spent a lot of time and effort in the last 17 years trying to get that word out as much as we can. I mean, obviously, we're a small rural community still. We advertise in newspaper, Facebook. We're doing this to get the word out. We try to get out with local businesses. I actually try to get on the ground as much as possible and talk to organizations about what we do. And even still today, I still have people that I've talked to last week come in and go, well, I didn't know you said that. So we try hard. We can't hit everybody, but I think we're doing better than we were when I started here. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So just a couple of the biggest reasons that their veterans miss out on and this is, I could shame to some of this stuff too. Is fear of the process. Mm-hmm. It seemed like it was a difficult process when I first got out. I had a knee injury while I was in. Tried to go through that claims process. I just started a new job after getting out of the military, and they're like, "Oh, you got to be in Brecksville at 4:30 in the morning for an appointment." I'm 22 years old. I guess I'll be okay. Like whatever. Right. And then you just stop that process. And then the other aspects of it too is like, just the idea is like, do I really need to? Like, I can still function on a daily basis. Like, I'm not that guy. There's other people that need it worse than I do, and then really just giving up on that claims process. And Jeff, you've got something to add on that.
I agree with you 100%. Most people come out thinking I can deal with it. You know, there's other people worse than us. They're the ones that are going to need the help. We'll figure our stuff out. We come out, we're younger, we're stubborn. You know, you think you're going to be able to figure all that stuff out, and
That alpha energy.
absolutely. Sometimes it works, you know, and that's great. You know, once in a while something slips through, and you look back going, man, I wish I'd have got him some help. You know, I just wish I could have pointed him in the right direction. And it's people like Ed and your organization that people see it out there, and hopefully they ask the right questions and start getting, because there's so much information that they don't know about. I mean, I left the same time frame, and I don't remember one thing that they told me. I mean, I was in and out of surgeries. Who cares? Sign some papers. You're medically retired, you know. Time I get home, I mean, it was a year before I even thought about asking for help, you know, just trying to figure out my stuff. And
Yeah.
I understand completely what people are saying where, yeah, they told me about it, but what does that really mean? You know, what is the VA? What are benefits? Why do I care about a house loan? Why do I care about, and as you get older and you realize how many things are there that can benefit you and your family, it's life-changing. And you just have to look into it, and you have to find the right people that are willing to assist you. And it's amazing the things that are out there if you find the right people. And you have to qualify, you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's not just free for everybody.
Of course. And
there's lots of criteria and everything.
I think though that what people, you know, I'll give myself as an example here is there's, you know, if you look on the outside looking at a person and you say, oh, he's got a good job, he's got a house, you know, he's got it together, he's fine, he gets up every morning, goes and works out, does whatever. Then you see one thing, but then when you don't see on the background is, wow, he's got a really short temper in his relationships. He's divorced. He's got, you know, he really just ends relationships with friends and anything over the smallest thing. And you don't realize like all those are different factors of, and I didn't even understand that until, you know, and I was fortunate enough. I had a great attorney that I went to. My buddy, he just retired, first sergeant out of Washington. He ended up spending his last 5 years recruiting. And he's like, man, you know, the best part about finishing my deployment or my time recruiting was like you really start to see like all the other stuff that's going on as far as the, you know, the bureaucratic stuff. And he's like, one, they're very particular on like not messing around and giving people the help that they need nowadays, whereas before they used to drag their feet on decisions and things like that. But two, there's more to it than like, it's not just either like you're homeless, you want to kill yourself, and then everything else is you're fine. Now it's like, wow, there's actually a lot of other aspects of, you know, being deployed multiple times, hearing, brain damage from explosions and things like that, that you think is normal because that's the way that you lived your life since you were 17 and you're on fire over there, you know what I mean, running, doing what you did. Whereas it's not necessarily normal. And it's good that it's okay to get some help and find some benefits that, you know, can do that, because even if you have the best health and insurance out there, it's expensive to go to a counselor once a week, every 2 weeks, et cetera.
So let's take your example. As 22 years old, you get out, you're strong, you know, hey, this isn't going to bother me. But when you're 44 or 54, that knee hasn't gotten any better. And it's that much harder to go back 30 years than it is to go back a year from when you got out. The process, I will admit, it is very difficult. And a lot of the younger folks, they get out, you know, you can do everything online now. You go on right to va.gov, do your claim. And a lot of people choose to do that. But finding the right person, like Jeff said, that knows the business, and it's just like being a doctor or a lawyer or anything else. You know, you got to write the right words, because you could file the same claim online that I'm going to file for you and leave 3 words out, and it changes the whole aspect of the claim. And then, you know, we talk about the claim, but it's not so much, and I tell people all the time, money is not going to it may make your life a little bit better. It's not going to cure you. But so with that claim comes health care, comes mental health counseling, comes other things that down the road, you know, don't feel as though you're taking something away from somebody else, because your service is just as important to them. And I get a lot of veterans that go, well, I don't have any body parts missing, I'm good. No, you're not. You know, you have parts of your head that maybe are not all there or missing. And, you know, you should get treated for that. You should get compensation for that. You should get health care for that. So don't ever think that you're taking something away from somebody else because you're going to get something.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Now, I'm sure, Michael, you see a considerable amount of this because, you know, we're talking about like not a lot of people know about you guys, but one of the things that people miss most about the military is the camaraderie. Like the guys that you hang out with. You talk about the guys that you still get together with, Jeff, every so often. I've got a group of 4 or 5 guys that we at least still have a group text that we're always together. We got together for a couple of Thanksgivings and stuff. And, you know, it was just, there's still like, he was just in Dayton. One of my buddies was just in Dayton. I drove 3 hours to go hang out with them for the day and grab lunch.
Nothing better than it.
So it's surprising that there's not these communities that are really honing in on that and developing inside the civilian sector, because we're all still regular guys. I hear you all bantering before the show, you know, but that's I felt like I was back in the barracks
Absolutely.
on a Thursday, you know, afternoon. So, Michael, is your position, I mean, you do have one of the kind of veteran-based hangout spots,
Yeah.
right? So, and you probably see a lot of this conversation taking place when you're in there. How does that, or others mention it to you? How does that kind of work in conjunction with what Ed does?
You know, it's interesting what Ed was saying. It's not just the younger peoples that kind of say, you know what, I don't need that. And we have a good example. We had a guest speaker come in to one of our meetings. He was with an organization called Purple Heart Homes. And what they do is they go around to, if you had earned a Purple Heart, and it's not just that, but if you were in some kind of veteran, they can do things for you. Well, like remodel your bathroom or do things like that. And he came in and was talking to everybody, and everybody's like, okay. Well, we had this one fella, he's 81, and he still gets around pretty good. And he come up to me after the meeting, he said, hey, Mike, can you help me get in touch with him? He says, I need to get a grab bar in my shower, but not for me, for my wife. And I said, well, yeah. I said, why didn't you raise your hand and talk to him? And he goes, I used to be able to do that stuff all the time. He says, I just can't do it anymore. I said, we all are going to hit a point where you can't do it anymore. And it's that pride.
Yeah,
you know,
of
we all
course.
have it, and it's that pride. We just don't want to say, okay, I need help. And I ended up getting a hold of the guy, and they're getting ready to, and all he wanted was a grab bar. And he went in there and he says, well, they did his evaluation. They said, well, how about if we just do this? And basically they're putting a new bathroom in his house.
Wow, that's awesome.
And every time I see him, when he's met up, I just talked to him the other day, and he says, you know what? He goes, I got about another week and a half before they're doing my bath. He goes, thank you so much. I said, sometimes we just have to let that pride go. I said, I know you could have done it, 10, 20 years ago. I said, but you can't do it now.
That small thing will be life-changing for him, too.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just it's one thing for any man to be told he can't do anything at a certain point in his life, I think, right? At least a certain kind of man. But then you take in the fact that, the average guy that was in the military over the last 50 years, tell that guy he can't do something anymore, and it's even a bigger shot to the ego. So,
Yep.
But that's great where these communities like, hey, can you help me out? Yeah, absolutely. Like I got, you know what I mean? And share some stories while I'm doing it or something like that nature. So that's awesome that, even at 81, yeah, you can still get that help. Like there's still a community out there for you.
Yeah, and he comes in all the time regular, and you wouldn't. I thought he was in his later 70s. He told me he's 81. I'm like, wow, because people are starting to be active more, but he just still deer hunts every year and that, and
Good for him.
and like you said, the camaraderie. Even though some of my best friends there were in the Army, and that doesn't mean I can't give them shit.
They're some of your best looking friends.
Oh.
So share a little bit from your perspective on what you're doing. You mentioned that there's kind of a culture that's associated with where you're at and how you're trying to make a change in that.
Right. So when you mention somebody, say, hey, I'm down at the VFW, and they think first thing that comes to their head, most people is like VFW. Same thing with Legion is, that's where old people go to drink. And
Hear war stories.
yeah,
Right, that's
they
what you think.
expect
Maybe a gun raffle or a meat raffle once in a while
Yeah.
too, right?
That's what you think.
And when they expect to walk in, they just expect to see, this dark bar and a bunch of old people sitting around and looking at them, and like, what are you doing here? And I try to explain to them. I said, the younger people, we were at war for 20 years. There's a lot of veterans out there who qualify. I understand some of them say, well, I don't, it's not like it was 20, 30 years ago where a guy would come home and, 3-4 nights a week would go up to the VFW, have some beers with his friends. Now you do that, your wife's going to say, I'm coming with, and we encourage to get the family. We are a family organization, and the younger members, we want them because my sons are in their 30s. I don't relate to that younger crowd with who have the younger kids, and we want them because we want to let this post evolve into something that's family oriented. And you need those people who have those ideas to say, hey, what if we try, or what if we do this? You know, I'm open all the time down there when people come up and they say, hey, I got an idea. I'm like, okay, let's, you know, because that's the only way. You know, this year is the 125th anniversary of the VFW. We are the oldest veterans organization in the world.
Wow.
We've been doing this for 125 years, and I tell my members, I said, you need to be proud of that. I said, and we want to keep this going for another 125.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, because you know, over the course of my travels across, you know, I always see VFW posts, and you're right, they are all usually associated with 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot, same people there drinking that was drinking there the day before, and that's one issue, right? But adapting into being something more to that, I mean, that's really where it needs to kind of go in order to invite that younger crowd. Because you're right, where's it going to go if that younger crowd just never goes there? Because that's not what they want anymore. Like you said, now it's, I have a wife, I have 2 kids. Like they're not going to go sit in a dark hole in the wall and drink beer all afternoon.
I was 48 when I joined, and you know the reason I didn't join was I said to myself, well, I'm not old, and I don't, you know, if I'm going to go drink I'm going to go hang out with some people I know.
Yeah.
And then when I joined, finally, I said to myself, I said, well, maybe I'm to the point I need to start contributing back to my community. And once I did that, I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm jumping in heads deep, became a life member. And I said, oh, by that, I'm going to be on the honor guard because I'm going to see a lot of people more. And once you get to see them, you know them, and you start becoming an active member, you realize the opportunity of what you can do, your contributions can do. And this year especially, and I don't know if many people know this. I know Ed probably knows this. He's heard me yell about it. Do you know where the VFW started?
I don't.
Dave?
At a bar? Well, we know that's where the Marine Corps started, right? At a bar.
The VFW started in 1899 down in Columbus, Ohio. So
No
this
kidding.
year, the national convention is going to be in Columbus, Ohio, and I said we're going to take one of my new members and we're going to drag them down there because when you go to the convention, I tell it when I get a new member and I said, see this? I point to the canteen. I said, you see this? I said, this is not the VFW. This is just a fundraiser for the post. I said, when you get out there and you start doing stuff with our organization, like today I spent the weekend up at the Piston Power Show in Cleveland. Our post was doing a raffle. We had 2 bourbon baskets and we had a flamethrower. We actually auctioned off or raffled a flamethrower.
I heard that. I heard that.
Dan's head perked up when he said
Why did we not
know
end
about
up
this? I don't
at the IX
See,
Center this weekend?
And all the
at
money we raised this weekend we gave 100% of it. It's going to the Ohio Veterans Home in Sandusky.
Oh, really?
We do this every year. We pick our post picks a charity. Last year it was Fisher House, and we raise money not for us because we have other fundraisers, but we do it for another charity because that's part of what we are about. We're a giving organization.
You know, that's a great segue, actually, because I told you I had a story about VFW. So when I first got out of the military, I loaded up my U-Haul, and I had my truck I actually had a U-Haul trailer with my pickup truck, and I can't even remember where I was at. I mean, I was in the middle of nowhere driving from Fort Riley, Kansas, back to Ohio. But my transmission actually caught on fire. So, and obviously 21 years old, just getting out of the military, I didn't have enough money. I didn't have credit cards. I didn't have any of that. The VFW helped me out, man. They rented me a 26-foot box truck, the trailer to put my truck on, helped me load, switch everything over. I had a bunch of vets out there kind of helped me get it all together. And, within 12 hours, I was back on the road, and they said, you know what, don't worry about the bill. Try to help somebody out later down the road. And, at 22 years old, I'm like, wow, that was an experience. Like, I was stuck.
You probably made their day because, when you joined the service to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And when you get out, I think that's what a lot of vets miss. They miss that camaraderie of being part of something bigger than yourself. And some posts do it better than others, and I hope in our post we're trying to make it better every day, but we want to do something to help people. And when we get the chance to help people, I got a call Friday. A guy said, he says, my dad was a vet, he's passed on, my mom is needing a wheelchair ramp. I said, you know what, we happen to have one that was aluminum one that was donated to us. I said, Monday, I'll get a guy out there. We'll look at it and see if we can implement it, and we'll get it out to you. We've done that. We've built a couple wheelchair ramps in the county or town of Medina for veterans. You know, we look for those opportunities because that's what we're about. We're giving back to our community, and that's we're trying to do that because it breaks that image of, you know, we're just a bunch of old guys.
It would be nice if there'd be a way for the other people in the city to hear about that instead of someone personally knowing you. And I think that's kind of what you're leaning towards, of how to kind of get the word out there more.
Yeah, and you know
That would be a really nice thing, you know.
Yes.
Other veterans that need something like that, and you're able to help, but they don't go to the bar. They don't really know that.
Well, this is a great scenario too. We're talking about this way of helping somebody or that way of helping somebody. These two organizations that are right here in Medina County, but this is obviously something that's duplicated across the entire United States. It's not just local to here. But how do we get that word out there? And hopefully, you know, this starts to gain some traction and does that for you. But that inner referral of like, oh, I know a guy for this, or that's for this, or yeah, we'd love to help you do this, and how to, you know, go out and reach out and ask people. I think, you know, with social media and so much stuff out there nowadays, it's at that point in time where it really should be growing substantially so that people understand these two communities. And like I said, we talked about it just again a minute ago. The camaraderie that we still have with people that we served with 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago plus, that's not just a few select veterans. That's essentially every veteran that you come across has those relationships that they still cherish, you know. And who wouldn't want that in their own backyard? So it's good to hear that these things are out there, and hopefully this helps get the word out there. And then hopefully, you know, we start talking about some ways that the community itself can take part, because everybody loves to say they support our veterans, but what does that support mean? And
how many of them are scams too? That's the other thing. You think that you're helping and you're giving, and then you find out, you know, only 5% actually went there, something like that. And that's where then people get nervous of.
But that goes back to, you know, people always ask about scams, and I tell people, if, you know, I mean, whether it's somebody at Walmart, I don't want to use Walmart, but any one of these stores out there that, you know, is collecting money for something, if you don't know the organization, and you got to be careful nowadays because some organizations kind of mirror their name off of another organization. Listen, and I tell people, if you don't know the guy, keep your money in your pocket and go down to your local VFW or American Legion or Disabled American Veterans or whatever. It's the local community place, and give them your money, because they're going to spend it right back in your community on somebody you know. So that's your best bet, is where you want to make a donation. I think one of the things that the organizations, not just the VFW, but all of them, don't do well is they don't promote what they do on a national level to these younger folks.
Agreed.
And folks tell me all the time, you know, younger folks will be like, well, I went in one, I didn't really like it. Well, don't judge all American Legions by one. Don't judge all VFWs by one, because they're all different across the country. But the one thing they all do very well in Washington is they legislate for your benefits.
Sure.
You know, and I tell you, without those organizations, there is no GI Bill. There is no PACT Act. There is no VA. And so I think younger folks are much more in tune to what our government's doing today. And I think they need to hear that it's just not the post down the street that, you know, is you know, helping somebody with a ramp, but it is people that are actually getting my benefits and fighting for them in Washington, D.C.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because, you know, a lot of guys are going out and getting information like I talked about off of YouTube, and there's a lot of guys that are out there that are veterans that are doing good things by getting information that's out there. But that guy that's out there and he's getting information too that you're working with to help get those benefits or to help walk you through a process or to find some of these solutions isn't and doesn't have the power like you talked about that the VFW has or that these different agencies have when it comes to lobbying in DC. And we've talked about lobbying and how, I mean, it's a billions upon billions of dollar business. Like, you need to have money and you need to have clout in order to get to be a successful lobbyist in DC and to make change happen.
Well, you need to. So number one is the Legion and the VFW are not lobbyists. They can't lobby. You need to have votes.
Gotcha.
And so members equates to votes. And don't think that, you know, either side of the table, you know, neither one is better than the other when it comes to veterans. We're a tool. And, you know, so when it comes to that, they're looking at membership because they're going, you know, the American Legion has 1 million veterans out there that are voting, that has 500,000 spouses, that whatever. So that's when younger folks ask me, well, why should I join? If you don't have time to go help out in your community today, you should join simply to become a number when they're lobbying for you or when they're legislating for you in Congress.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's good that you pointed that out because I wasn't aware of that. So that's there. You're basically using that statistic, like you said, because we're tools when it comes to elections, regardless of what parties, trying to win a seat, and regardless of what state it's in, it doesn't even matter anymore. Real quick, when we're on that subject, I saw that you posted something the other day about the cuts to the VA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obviously, there's a couple of different ways to look at it. I don't know where your guys' political stances are, but I'm interested to hear what your thoughts and opinions are of what's being reported, but versus what's kind of actual in that process. Because there's more to it than we're just cutting jobs and et cetera.
Yeah, I think, so you can look at, and not to get into the politics of it, you can look at it and say, hey, the government's too big, we should get rid of some people. Or you could look at it and say, obviously that's probably the biggest tool right now because everybody's using this, you're cutting VA benefits and stuff. So we're a good market out there to go, hey, you shouldn't do this. And then that folds over to every other agency in the government. Right. The government's always too big. And in any agency, there's 5 of us around the table. We could get rid of one of us right now and we'd all be fine, right? Sure. Sorry, Jeff.
I'm out.
But when you look at the reality of it, so the PACT Act was passed in 2021, I believe, and they added a ton of people that were going to rate those claims. The VA already said they said before that law passed, if this law passes, it is going to create another backlog going back to what they had in 2015, because they just said we're going to get this many claims coming in. And they projected about a 250 to 275,000 backlog up until I think it was 26, 27, and then it would start to go down with the hires. Now, I'm not the guy making decisions, and I'm not in on this, but I think there would be a better process to go in and say, what is the reality, and do some analytics maybe to see who needs to go and who doesn't need to go.
Of course.
I don't know. Maybe cutting 80,000 people won't matter.
Right.
Personally, I think it will. I think it's too big of a cut, and I think there needs to be some analytics in there. But again, we'll wait and see. I don't really, like I said, I'm not the guy up there in DC.
Of course. I was just curious to hear you guys.
I think there could be a better way to do this, and by saying the secretary came out and said, hey, we're going to get rid of those people because there's this backlog and they're not doing anything. That backlog we knew was coming. Right. So,
you guys got thoughts on this?
A little bit about that is not so much as far as the numbers with the VA, but the other thing we ought to look at, there are other organizations, reputable organizations out there that do a lot of the work that helps with the VA. Good friend of mine is she's the vice president of Volunteers of America. That organization's been around a long time, and I met her through 3 years ago at the Piston Power Show. We were raising money for Volunteers of America. If anybody doesn't know about it, what she did, she raised money to build the Harper Village, which is the first women's military homeless shelter, right down Cleveland, right by Wade Park. I think Ed's familiar with it. She raised over $2 million for that because that was a facet that was being neglected, was homeless women from the military. Sure. They have a lot of problems too. MST, for those who don't know, military sexual trauma. That's a big issue. And you have these women come out of the military and they have just as many problems, even though if they weren't in battle, that for some of the things that happened while they were in. Well, if they don't go to the VA and who picked them up? Well, VOA is a great organization, and they do stuff like that to help homeless, and they got a big footprint here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that over the next 10 to 15 years, that number's going to even grow, right, with the amount of women that are serving now versus 40 years ago. Because, we're not that far out. I'm trying to think, even when I was in, women were really kind of, at 2000, 99 was kind of like a jumping point where you saw more and more women, especially deploying. So now, since then, gosh, they deploy just as much as men do in today's day and age when it comes to, especially when you're overseas for 20 years. But
I'll tell you, the 21 years I served, when going back to private, you very seldom saw a woman on the range or downrange at one of the training areas, as opposed to my last tour in Afghanistan, where we had women deployed with us out on the FOB, doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
they're a great asset. Military can't do without them, and they are growing. And you brought up military sexual trauma, not just it's not just a sector to women either. 1 out of 3 military sexual trauma is filed by men, believe it or not. So, I mean, it's all over the place, but yeah.
Really? Sexual trauma. I didn't even have time for that when I was in the military. That's what Kansas State Aggieville was for on the weekends. It's trauma. She said no. Jeff, what about you? Any thoughts kind of on that aspect? Did you have any opinion?
I'm going to focus from the time I came home from the service. On the other side, being an investigator and working that side of it, I saw a lot of other aspects of that stuff. But for the purpose of your podcast, I just would like to point out the positive of how the VA is now. I hear horror stories all the time. This doesn't work. This isn't right. I'm at the VA a minimum of 2 days a week. I have body parts missing. I have treatment. I go to counseling. Still battling cancer, like someone else I know went through it. And they've never turned me away. If you go and you follow through, the treatment is there. So what I get concerned with when they talk about all these cuts and everything else is that going to affect the everyday veterans that are coming in, that it takes time. I have no desire to go to the VA 2 or 3 times a week, but if I don't, I'm back on my canes, I'm putting my braces back on, I'm not going out in public, you have to maintain, and that's kind of what I've learned through my days. And without that VA, I won't do it. I don't know how to do it. And that stuff is there. Most people are complaining because they can't get 100%. They can't get enough money. It's not the actual trying to fix themselves, of make them kind of fit into society and be a better person. And that part of it is amazing. So I just hope that as they talk about all these cuts, that it doesn't take away from the actual veterans that use it for the positive that they have. Not the 10% of shitbags that we've all dealt with our whole lives. You're always going to have that in every aspect. You're going to have that. You're going to have the people that are there to get drugs or get some.
Anytime that you offer anything beneficial to the public, there will be somebody that will take advantage of it in a terrible
1,000%.
way.
And you're never going to stop it. That's just the way it is. But there's a lot of veterans that need it. And I hope that doesn't get taken away because.
So you're going pretty often. It sounds like it's a pretty positive experience. You're not just taking a number and number 9, come on in. It sounds like you're very well connected there when you come in. And
if I'm through the cancer section of it, they know me by first name. We do a little side thing where we actually have our own little donations. I've been there so long and they helped us so long that we donate cash, like Giant Eagle food cards to other family members that are going through. Like when I was going through my treatment, you don't eat, you don't do anything, but your family has to eat. And you don't realize how much of a burden that is. All of a sudden, someone shows up, with a basket of food, some type of food card, and it took off so much stress for my wife and my kids. Whenever we learned how positive that was something small that we could do, $100 a week or something, So we try to do little stuff like that just on our own because they helped us so much. When it comes to like my rehab, hey Jeff, they know me. You know what I mean? It's glad you're here. What's the goal? What do we want to try to accomplish? And it's not sit over there and wait and shut up. You know what I mean? It is, they know you. You know what I mean? They're calling. Like if I miss an appointment or something, like they're physically calling me. You okay? What's going on?
Right.
And you have to have those relationships, and you have to be able to do it. First couple of years, absolutely not. I didn't care. I want to be left alone. But once you give in, once you really accept that you can have this and it helps you, it's there. And I just hope that doesn't get taken away.
So Jeff may punch me, but he actually may do worse than that. But I'm gonna back up a little bit. Jeff actually is a number, or was a number, in the system. So our office, we do county, state, federal benefits. Jeff came to me and, I was a new guy. I probably learned more doing Jeff's case than I've learned in the last 16 years.
With boxes of medical records.
Yeah. I mean, he came to me and he handed me this stuff and he's like, I don't have any money. I don't have a job. I got 2 kids. And I'm like looking at this pile of medical records going, Jesus, what the heck am I doing here? And so locally, we run a financial assistance program through the county with county tax dollars. we were able
Try to scoot up just a hair. Sorry.
So,
It's,
so you know, locally, I was able to help him with our financial assistance program through county tax dollars, and we were able to keep him above water, and living until we could get that VA claim through, and that was not easy. 2-3 years back then, and that was on.
Wow.
I mean, when you go back 20 years before everything was in a database, we're talking about paper files at the VA and a couple million of them. It took 2 years to do a claim. Well, his took probably 2 or 3. It probably took 5 before we could actually get you to where he could sustain life and go, hey, I can live now.
yeah.
And then the road from there on in has been, I won't say smooth sailing, but it's been one benefit after another. But he was a number, and that's sad to say because, you kind of are. But the best part about this is if you can get somebody to help you, and I'm not patting myself on the back because there's thousands of people out there who do what I do and do a great job. They know how to help you, and you just got to understand the time. And I kept telling you, remember, I kept going, it's okay. It's just going to take time. There's nobody I can call to go, hey, do this today. It's just the way the system works. And that sucks for a lot of people.
Sure.
But we were able to get you through it, and you came out the other end, well.
1,000%.
But I don't want you. I don't. He's gonna sit here and talk good things about it. But he was a number, and that's sad to say. Yeah. And fortunately, he came out the other end, a better human, and life is good for him. So
Well, and what we need to understand too is technology at the VA or the military in general, unless it's a new cool gun or some kind of weapon, doesn't advance at the same level as the rest of society. When I mentioned when I recently got my benefits, like first of all, if I would have known you guys were available, that's great. I didn't help you. You guys actually help guys go through that process and file out that form. I was fortunate enough when my buddy said look for an attorney. I found Ken Cab. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. Out of he's like out of Broadview Heights, somewhere out there. Completely pro bono. Doesn't ask for anything unless he's going for back pay for time before. Right. He takes a small percentage of that. But his office, we sat down. He asked me more questions than I got asked during my psych evaluation during the actual VA what's it called? But went through everything. Introduced me to a friend of his who's a counselor in that area that works specifically with VAs. I went and had a sit down with him for a couple hours, and he walked me through that whole process. But he did it all online. By the time I would get something in the mail from the VA, he'd be like, I already got it, and I already took care of it.
He probably had access.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So that kind of technology wasn't there 10 years ago, 15 years ago with the VA, or at least nobody was necessarily utilizing it. And hopefully that gets better over time. And I think when they're talking about these cuts that they're making on a government side of things, I think it's just that, we've got better technology than this. We're spending a lot of money on admin. And I think that's where a lot of those cuts are needing to be made. The other aspect, and I'm interested to hear your guys' opinion, because you mentioned all your stuff you're doing right now is through the VA. So from what I understand, and this goes into the whole big medical side of things, is that since the VA, or since they've opened up to private healthcare being able to be a portion of this, meaning you don't have to go to the VA, you go to your private doctor, we're paying for that as well, right? That's created a huge increase in expense on veterans, because obviously not every doctor charges the same for you to come in and get a checkup or to sit down and do an evaluation or go through physical therapy or these different things. So I think that they just have realized that we're trying to do all these great things and nobody's monitoring the money. And they're like, wow, we're paying out a lot more than we.
I just did this for the first time. I've been using them for 15 years.
Uh-huh.
And I battle cancer. So I have to hit they wanted to pull all my teeth out before. They couldn't do it. We didn't have enough time. So I have to go into dental 3 times a year to get a cleaning, and they have to check because I don't produce the saliva glands and all this stuff. So dental this year couldn't get me in like they were supposed to. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I have no idea. And they literally contacted me and said, because we can't do this, we're going to send you to here. They're going to do it. And I just did all this about 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It was flawless. I showed up. They had all my stuff. They did all my stuff. It went through. It says this is not a bill. It broke everything down. But that was the first time that I've gone not to the VA.
Right.
And it worked perfect. And they simply said, we can't do this within the 30 days that you have to have this done. And this is why we're doing it. And I was impressed. I was like, wow, like that was really smooth. And I did nothing except get the phone number, call them, make the appointment, and show up. They had everything else there, and that was very impressive.
And that's a huge win. I mean, I think that the civilian and the military side of, you know, any kind of healthcare should be split and shared. That was one of the benefits that worked for me. You know, all I had to do was sign off a form that it was okay, and then boom, all my documents and all my medical history and visits were shared simultaneously across both. Excuse me. So it's good that that's something that you were able to take advantage of and that worked for you.
I was most impressed that they did it. I didn't ask. I had no idea. I was just like, oh, shit, I guess I got to wait.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something in the past where maybe they wouldn't have brought it up, and then you would have been the one who's at fault for not getting something done in a certain amount of time.
I
and,
would feel like
you
that
know,
too.
You know, so the private care thing is great for the VA. I first of all, I think my opinion is I think there's a lot of things they could be doing out in the private sector as opposed to some of the things that they're going to do out in the private sector. The problem becomes is like anything, our veterans don't understand the process. And you're right, they don't explain the process very well because they don't understand the process. So, you know, you publicize everything and go, hey, you can go out there, see your own doctor and the VA will pay for it. Well, only if the VA approves it. So what happens is we have VA veterans that go out and see their doctor, come back and go, well, hey, why won't the VA pay for this? It's got to get approved. And then there are so many laws going all the way back to, you know, even before 1999, but you go back to the Mill Bill, you know, where if you have private insurance, the VA does not have to pay your bill. So unless they've approved you to go to that doctor for that procedure and that procedure only, you're kind of out of luck. So a lot of veterans go out and have stuff done and then come in and they're stuck with the bill.
Yeah.
Or their insurance is stuck with the bill and then they're stuck for the copays. So the policy and how they do it and how they implement it, like anything our government does, needs to be explained to the people that are using it. And our veterans just don't get that explanation a lot of times.
Well, I was gonna say, to this day, I don't even know what my benefits are as far as healthcare and stuff like that goes outside of the VA at 70%, like, because I haven't really been able to find anybody that can explain it the best. So, I mean, that's a perfect example, you know, is like, okay, do I have to still carry my own private healthcare, or does this percentage get you this covered so that you can just go to the doctor and get checked up, et cetera? Do you think?
No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
The answer is no.
No. Do you think that? This is just an opinion. This has nothing to do with anything that's out there right now. But do you think that there'll ever be an opportunity, or there'll be something where the Veterans Association will just kind of create like their own private health care, where like if you're, you know, X amount of percentage, then you're just going to get it. If you're not, you could pay for it based off your percentage, so that you can get care anywhere.
You mean like an insurance?
Yeah, basically insurance for veterans.
So let's just talk a little bit about the VA medical centers versus private sector, and you know, because there's a lot of people that think like, well, why can't I just go to my own doctor and the heck with the VA? Let's talk a little bit about what the VA does. The largest medical system in the world. I believe it's more than 65% of the doctors in the United States have interned or practiced at the VA. So wrap your head around all those doctors at the Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, and everything else that either practice there or still co-op there. A lot of the doctors today that work for the Cleveland Clinic downtown still go over to the VA and co-op with the VA. And then let's talk about some of the things that the VA does really well. Diabetes, best numbers out of any population in the United States for people that are being treated by diabetes.
Real quick, to touch on that, what do you mean by that? Like,
so if you take all the, you know, you can go in and take the analytics of people that are treated by diabetes and what their numbers are and everything, you know, their sugar levels, their health care.
Like how well they're actually being treated, you mean, essentially?
The best numbers come out of the VA.
Okay. So like when it comes to like prescribing the right amount of insulin, teaching people how to manage their insulin, that kind of aspect.
And a lot of that may be because they're in the VA system and the insulin they get for free. You know, they don't have to worry about paying for it.
Right.
Mental health, some of the best, and as much as people would argue this, they have the numbers for the best mental health treatment in the out of any other medical center in the United States. And you could go on and on and on, and they're able to track that. So when you look at how our veterans are being treated, and I'm not opposing this, like, you know, I use the Cleveland Clinic, I use other hospitals, and I use the VA. But if you were to send everybody out to their own resources, you would never see how our veterans are actually getting treatment. How is their treatment being done? And is it good or is it bad? There's a lot of people that say, well, that would be great because we don't have to worry about it at that point. You know? Should there be more options to go outside the VA? Sure, as long as those systems talk to each other, like you said, and it's recognized. I think it's ridiculous that if I need a blood test, I have to drive down to Lewis Stokes in Cleveland for a blood test when there's several people out here they could pay for it and email the results to. I think things like that would lower the system and make it easier for our veterans and more accessible for some of the things they need, and keep the bigger things that veterans-centric, like, diabetes. Not all, but 85% of our Vietnam veterans probably have diabetes from Agent Orange. But you want to be able to track those diseases and illnesses that are caused from our service. And the only way to do that is to make sure that a large percentage of our veterans are still going to the same system. That's my opinion. That's Ed's opinion.
Well, real quick, and you could share your opinion as well, both of you guys, but something that I thought of as you were saying that was like, man, one of the things I hate about the doctor's office now is they always try to push pills down your throat, whether you're 10 years old or you're 100 years old. There's a new pill that you need to be on in order to fix this or fix that. And that might not be the case in the VA because they're actually taking the time and trying to do it right.
They've cut way back on their opiate thing. The opiates were big in
course.
Before 2020, and there's a lot of people getting a lot of deaths from opiates, a lot of addiction from opiates, and the VA was one of the first ones to cut back on opiates and start to look at more holistic type treatments and things like that. So.
Yeah, and I don't want to go, we don't have to spend an hour talking about the healthcare side of things, but it was just a couple of things that I thought we could touch on while we were kind of getting started. Let's talk a little bit. Let's go break down on where you guys. First of all, what all does your department do? Like, what all are you guys able to help veterans with? And because there's more than just obviously getting benefits. There's a lot more to that, right?
Man, I'm still trying to figure that out. So you go ahead.
Let me just throw this. This is just as a veteran who showed up at the door.
Yeah.
And
let's just hear that experience. That's actually
literally.
perfect.
So for me, we have to go back 15, 16 years now or whatever. But from the time I met Ed till now, he had my rating go to 100%. He, for that 6 months where I had nothing, was able to find those other services that literally kept a roof over my head and my children's head, figuring all that stuff out. Got me into right positions as far as the right doctors, and the right mental health and the future surgeries. I had 32 surgeries now.
Wow.
And he made all this stuff happen where I didn't know what to do anymore. Like I was very good at my job. I was promoted really fast, and I took a good injury. And it happens, and next thing you know, you're home. And that's just the way it is. From that point forward, two of my sons are going to college right now. That doesn't cost me very much money. My oldest son went through an apprenticeship program that there was programs out there. This magic guy told me that I rate, and finds them. And it's amazing when I sit down and look and say, if I didn't happen to meet Ed and Sue Cricket, right? It kind of went by Cricket. These were like kind of the two people that I met at the time. And that's the three of us kind of met and sat down. And my children have normal lives that I could not provide them. I couldn't put two of my kids through school. There was no possible way. I couldn't get my oldest son through an apprenticeship program. There was no possible way. I wasn't even walking then. I was like, my scooter and everything still and all that kind of stuff. But it is amazing what their programs do if you rate it and if you go through the process. And you have to be able to go through that process, and it takes a little bit of time. And
a little bit of grit, maybe.
Of course, swallow your pride a little, suck it up. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, though, what they do for people, it's amazing. It's amazing. And my goal when I'm out is I don't want anybody to look at me any different. I want to fit in. I don't want to look different. I don't want to limp. I don't want to have my braces on. I don't want them to know things are gone. I just want to fit in, be left alone. I want my children to be happy, all that stuff. And you can't do that without a base. And these organizations give you a base when you don't know how to get that base. All I knew was the military.
Yeah.
It's all I knew. It's gone in one day. And my physical body was gone. And you just have to live. And it's that process, and I understand why when veterans come home and they're at that rock bottom, you can go in so many directions. And I'm hoping that things like this just get out to one or two more people that will help them the way that it helped me, because I could have went in a lot of directions. My sons have great lives, and it's because of the benefits that I receive, because of meeting Ed and finding these organizations that are there. So
That's awesome. I mean, how does that make you feel hearing somebody's life get changed like that? I'm sure that's something you get to hear a little bit more often than most. But
I probably talk about Jeff more than he wants me to, not by name, but we've cried together. We've gone through a lot, and somebody's going to call me and go, well, why don't I have what Jeff has? And I will tell you, the first thing I'll tell you is you don't want to go through what Jeff has gone through. Nobody wants to. So back to the original question is what we do. We're a county office, first of all. We are not a federal office. We're not the Department of Veterans Affairs. Each county in the state of Ohio has an office like mine. I tend to think the one here in Medina is the best out of the 88.
Agree with that.
There's about 18 states that have offices like ours, and they're all different because of state legislature and state laws. Ohio's funded very well through the laws the way our offices operate.
Real quick on that, you're state funded or local funded?
We are county funded.
County funded.
The Ohio Revised Code mandates how we are funded through county tax dollars. So all the administrative stuff, salaries, building, the programs we run that are county programs that are mandated by the Ohio Revised Code are all county tax dollars. So when people ask me what I do, I generally tell them I take the veteran or the eligible family member and I take what the problem is and I try to plug it. Whether that is with a federal pension, whether it's with federal VA benefits, health care, whether it's with a state scholarship, or whether it's simply calling the local VFW post because there's a shut-in veteran that needs Christmas dinner. So, local government works best. I've always been a believer of that, and I think we are the best asset for a veteran to get whatever they need to help them through the situation they're in. And we plug in a lot of the organization he mentioned. We've worked with them. They just built a ramp for somebody we were asking to. We worked with church organizations, nonprofits that are local. So even if I can't get the federal government to help you, chances are I can find somebody that can. Not always. We can't help everybody.
Of course.
So that's basically what our office does, is we just try to help the veteran or the eligible family member with whatever that is. Now, obviously, the bulk of our work, besides the financial assistance program and transportation we do down to Lewis Stokes and the Parma CBOC and the Akron CBOC, is the VA claims work. We have 4 accredited people in my office that go through a lot of training to do the work for the VA. Full access to the VA, full access to their technology. We're talking a little bit about being behind. I'd argue that with the VA. Their technology, if you go back to prior to 2015, they were paper files, to the point literally where they would load bins up and put them on an airplane and fly them to another federal building because those people didn't have anything to do, and then unpack the bins. You couldn't imagine. So around 2015, 2016, they went totally digital, everything. So the VA, out of any government entity, probably had the most newest software, technology, and everything else, and they're still working on it. Their technology can rate claims in milliseconds by the hundreds. And some people would say, well, that's the problem. A human doesn't get to look at it. You're always going to have error.
Of course.
But if I tell you, well, it's going to take me 6 months to rate these 1,000 claims because a human's going to look at them, or I can rate them in 3 minutes, what's the better option?
Of course. Well, you could always go through the appeal process, which nobody wants to hear.
We don't want to do the appeal process. That's what they need to fix. They really do, because that's still taking way too long. The average claim right now is rated in 145 days. Some of them still take out there. There are those horror stories, and that's what you always hear about. Unfortunately. So
it's like a review at a restaurant.
It is. But, I always ask people, and a lot of those horror stories I talk about are created because nobody helped the person, and they're down this rabbit hole, and some of them were able to get fixed pretty quickly. Some of them were not. I mean, some of them still take time.
Sure.
But that's in a nutshell what our office does. Now, are we able to help everybody? No. but I think we do a pretty good job of getting the word out. I know, you said you didn't hear about it, and I still have veterans come in that go, I never knew you were here. And I just go, I'm sorry. I mean, I do the best I can. And I even asked, we hired a community relations person over this past year, and he's working to get the word out even more to even this younger generation. Because, we've been on Facebook and we've been on the websites and everything. So now he's doing Instagram, and, we're doing this podcast and stuff because we want the younger veterans to come in. I want you to come see me before you file that claim on your own and go down that rabbit hole.
Of course.
And one of the things I've always told my folks is, if you're going to say no to someone, tell them why. Because sometimes the no isn't us saying no, it's the law saying no. And if you don't like the law, then you got to go talk to the people that write the law, right? Because we're not going to break the law. That's the way it goes.
It makes sense. So do you guys charge veterans for this service? Or
No,
is this something that's
we
completely free to them?
are a free entity. Everything we do is free, doesn't cost a dime, and we do quite a bit, I think. So.
Yeah, and for anybody that's listening, please make sure you like, share, comment, ask questions. We'll make sure we get them to the right people, whether it's Ed and his team or anybody else. But this is the kind of stuff that you want to share so that people get this information out there. There's a lot of veterans that are always looking for help, that don't know where to go, that chase the internet rabbit hole, which could lead them in a million directions,
Yes,
that can
absolutely.
create a lot. I mean, you talk about the forms to submit things in. If you don't do that on an everyday basis, like, you could easily get confused. Like, it's me that I have to talk about. I should know this stuff. But when you start reading, it's like, wait, hold on a sec. Why does that seem like a trick question? So why not have somebody that's experienced in doing this on a day-to-day basis? One, to put your best foot forward first. But two, I mean, that's not what you do for a living. You have a job, you have families, you have all these other aspects that you need to be concerned with, your own personal health, what you're already going through and fighting with. Spending all that time trying to deal with, the VA or any of these other associations to try and get what you deserve.
Well, if
somebody's want to help,
even if we do it, it's still a process. It's not
Of
going to
course.
be. It's still not going to be.
but
easy.
it's not on my shoulders.
Exactly. I mean, we can at least tell you we did it correctly, and here's where we're at in the process.
Yeah, because I mean, I hear Jeff, and I don't know your complete story. I don't know if you care to share or if it's something that you want to, but that's like at that point in time when I can imagine what you were going through, because your claims process definitely seems a lot. So you mentioned you have 2 boys. You obviously have, I'm assuming, a wife at that point. You have your family that you're trying to maintain. You had a career, which even though you're really good at, you're probably really good at because that's just the easiest thing to put your mind to focus on. I mean, I find that with a lot of veterans like myself, it's easy to focus on work. It's all the other stuff that's hard. So there's like a lot of weight on your shoulders at that aspect. Having somebody take some of that off, that had to be like just knowing that you're like, you know what, I don't know what's going on. I can just give somebody a call or, hey, how's everything going? Yeah, everything's going well.
It honestly saved my life.
Yeah.
And I mean that. When I came home, I had 3 sons. My ex-wife decided that she should divorce me. So I had to go through that at the same time. Military doesn't want to tell you because they think you're going to blow your head off.
Right.
So they're trying to hide that from me while you're going through your surgeries, and maybe you're going to walk, maybe you're not, Comes to that point, you're going to get medically retired, and you get a dollar amount. And that's kind of all you know. Well, it is what it is. That's kind of the mindset. And with all the people that I was around at the time, I never thought I would ever need help. I mean, I have photos with 2 presidents. I was doing protection. I was doing counterintelligence. I'm in the Pentagon. I'm in the White House. I have the Yankee white clearance. I literally am living this life that, no way. I could take a GS-15 job and make $150,000 a year. Like, all these things were in my head. And when you take some real injuries, those aren't options anymore. And when you come home and all of that kind of settles in, it's really you. And you're like, I got a lot of responsibility. My sons, wife wants to leave you. Okay. I mean, that's kind of your mindset of the military. Like, hey,
Next.
15 years, 3 kids. You don't want me when I'm hurt. Okay. Move on. It is what it is, kind of thing. But when you really have that alone time and you process all that, and then you go, how am I supposed to live with $1,500 a month? I got to go do something. Well, what do I know? And everything I know is law enforcement interrogations. Well, I really don't want to carry a gun anymore. I really don't want to, and it's kind of processing things. And then physically, oh, that's right, I'm on a scooter.
Yeah, literally, and that's kind of how your brain works.
Yeah, you just go through that
I
process.
want to coach my kids at football. I wonder if they're going to be embarrassed because I'm on this electric scooter. And you just kind of wing it, you know, and as things build up and build up and build up, you have those days where you hit rock bottom, I would say.
I remember, I don't think you'll mind me sharing this. I remember
No, not at all.
the day he walked in with the scooter, and we had worked on his claim. We'd gotten him a percentage in healthcare and things like that. And we were fairly good acquaintances at that time. And he came in and he goes, like, I'm on the scooter, and I don't know what we were doing for you that day or whatever. And I said, oh, you can get around okay and everything. And I knew what his injuries were and stuff. And I guess I just kind of like pushed it aside, was trying to make it like, oh, you got a scooter, that's cool, right? You know, I don't know, maybe Tito was on the scooter that time. You know? And he looked at me and he goes, Ed, I'm friggin' 35 years old and I got a scooter. And I kind of stopped and I took it all in and I'm like, yeah, shit, that sucks, right? And I think that was when we started working on the 100% and everything. You know, it was kind of like, but yeah, I mean, it hits you, and it's moments like that with somebody that make you realize how hard you got to do your job, and the payoff is, because I'm very proud of the guy.
Yeah,
You know, and it's not about me, but it's truly about, you know, him being able to live a life and his kids and everything, like he said. But sometimes you just got to.
And I say it is about Ed and his organization, because I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have. I was just at that point where, you know, I'm going to try to figure it out, and that's it. And if I didn't meet Ed at the right time, at that right moment, none of this would have happened. I know that I have 2 grandkids now. I have 2 grandkids. I mean, it's amazing, and I wouldn't have any of that. So I have an adopted grandson, and I have a birth grandson now, and it's just every day I'm just like, man, my whole family knows Ed. Like they know Ed and they know cricket. Like it's just kind of our daily thing. Like
I think the important thing that I want to get across here is, you know, and in my office, you know, I share things like this with my office because people that do what I do shouldn't take it for granted.
yeah,
And people that work in my office and do what we do shouldn't take it for granted. You actually can change lives, and that's what we're there for, is to do that. And like I said, I can't change everybody's life, but you should try like hell to do so.
You said that you were pretty new at that job at the time that he came in through your door. Like how long were you working there?
I want to say like maybe a year or so. I mean, literally, there's about 3 files that I remember the first year or so I was there.
Didn't you get there in 07?
And Jeff, yeah, I got there in 07.
And that's when I got home, was 07.
And Jeff is one of them, to where, you know, I just sat back and said, you know, there's I'm going to forget the word. Oh God, common something where common, I don't know. His disabilities were kind of multifaceted, and that was the problem in trying to get him to 100%. So I called a friend of mine that had been doing this a little bit higher level back then, and actually I think I met her at a conference. And common etiology, that's the word.
Oh, that's a
And
big word.
I said,
Google that.
I was going to say that.
So she helped me go through the file and everything, and she's an attorney, and she said, "Well, you need to do this," and that was the word that like I said, when 2 or 3 words in a claim make a difference, and that word, those 2 words, common etiology, combined all his injuries into one body part, basically, because
Right.
they all are kind of, you know, a common etiology, whatever that means. And that's how we want it. So, I mean, that still sticks in my head.
Well, it's interesting because you just pick that one thing up, and that's gonna. I mean, here we are, 18 years later, and that's something that you specifically remember because that's probably impacted not only Jeff but multiple other people along the process. And I think that's also now more calculated with VA claims now, right? Because I still don't understand the VA calculation process.
Me either.
You're at 190%, but it's 60
absolutely.
or 70 or whatever, and it's
So the IRS does their math. Yeah,
definitely.
I'll explain it to you one day if you'd like to know it. I can, you know.
Yeah, I've heard it a couple of times. It's definitely an interesting math equation, that's for sure. But yeah, so
They did not cover it in math for Marines. So, it was not in that lesson.
So you were 1 year in. He walks in through your door. What led you to take the job in the first place?
So, like I said, I retired as a first sergeant. I've always, all my, leadership going through the Army, and I still do this today. I believe in people. I believe people come first. I've always treated my soldiers like, they're my soldiers, but yet they're my partners. And I believe that whether you're running a business or whatever, your people are the most important asset. And so I taught high school for a year, and then I got offered this job. And this job is no different than being in the military. It's a little more relaxed, maybe. Nobody's shooting at me. But
That's good news.
well, yeah, anyway. But
so
the
it's
people that
boring.
come through my door are the most important asset, and the people that are in my care to take care of in any way, shape, or form. So it's important to listen to their story and try to figure out what they need and can I help them or can I not? If I couldn't help Jeff, I would have said, look, we're done. I can't do anything else for you. And that would have been it.
Documentation is
Yeah.
huge.
And so I just took that and I ran with it, and every claim is different. Every veteran is different. Some claims take longer than most. His claim took a lot longer than most. And even, with the paper claims going on back there, and you got to learn a lot. You got to read. You got to get into healthcare. I mean, I'm probably, it's kind of like being a protege doctor almost. I mean, I know more health terms than I care to know. I don't know what they mean, but I know the terms, right? Like common etiology. You just got to go through the process. I don't know how else to say that. And it is a process. And knowing the administrative process with the VA, knowing what's right, knowing what's wrong, talking to your colleagues. If I would have just said, hey, Jeff, we're done. And I wouldn't, sometimes it's a gut feeling. I know there's more. So I called a colleague of mine who had been doing it, and she was the one that helped me through that. So it's you just try.
Now, here's something I'd like to I met Ed through. Every VFW post has a service officer, and a service officer is supposed to do something. Let's put it soft work of what Ed does.
They're like an assistant there to kind of guide guys.
So
and ask
if somebody
some
comes in
questions and stuff.
needing to claim that, they're supposed to help them get the ball rolling.
Right.
Not to the extent that Ed is. Well, I've had the same service officer since I've been commander because, one, he has the easiest job because somebody comes in, I give him that, and he says, we're going to take you over to Ed. and I'm not joking. I told Ed that today at the piss. I said, this guy come up to me. He was from down around Columbus area. I said, he was coming up. He said he has these problems. He's not getting the right answer. I said, come back around. I said, Ed will be here. I said, Ed, he does great work. And I mean that honestly. Ed does, I don't know how to put it in words. He cares. And that's the other thing too is, for veterans getting out, Ed's not going to be here forever. I wish he was, but somebody's going to have to fill his shoes. And you need somebody who wants to help. And you can tell he does. If you spend 5 minutes talking to Ed, Jeff, I'm sure you can attest to that. He wants the best for you, and he's going to do what he can.
Right.
He's not just there, hey, I've been here my 8 hours, I'm going to go home. I really don't care what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
And we need those people like that in jobs like that.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because that was going to be my next question was, I mean, you've learned all this over the course of 18 years. That's not something you learn overnight. And you also got like a 8-year head start on the 3 years that you worked with Jeff's claim, it sounds like, on how to like thumb through this and learn it. So do you already, I already heard you talking about doing some fishing, walking around naked in the parking lot later in life. You're
not supposed to say
once,
that, no.
Once you decide to retire, like you're done. Like you don't want them to have an excuse to call you back, right? So that being said, are you already planning like your successor? Have you already begun grooming somebody? Do you know what you're looking for if you haven't? What's that look like
so
for you?
first of all, I want to say it's not the Office of Ed. It is the Medina County Veterans Service Office. And, I got some great people that work there with me. I got a great office manager. We got great upfront people. I got 2 other service officers there that I hired. In the
So you
last
have
years.
2 other people that kind of do what you do underneath you, in a sense, right?
So I mean, I think I set the daily tone. I think that's my job.
Yeah.
As a first sergeant, as a director, I mean, it's your place, and it's your kind of you're supposed to be the one that sets the pace. But I think we've hired some great people that care, and that is the first and foremost thing that you got. You can be as smart as anybody. If you don't care about the people that you're taking care of, and if they don't come first, If you're the guy or the gal that at 4 o'clock on a Friday when you're supposed to meet your buddies downtown for the ball game and the homeless person shows up at your door, if that ball game is more important than that homeless person, then you're not
the wrong person.
You're the wrong person to be working in that office, I feel. And you know, I'm not to say that, you know, your life has got to get put on hold, but the people that you take care of trust you, and you need to take care of them.
Yeah. I wanted to get back on your point of view, Michael, just because you mentioned, you know, you want to start making some changes. You want to start, you know, what does the future for the VFW here in Medina look like? What are some things that you've already begun putting in place? What kind of events do you guys do? Do you guys work together on events? You mentioned the Piston Power Show this weekend, but
Yeah, right now, right now during Lent, we always do our fish fries. That's always a big event. A couple things we and our other biggest fundraiser in August, we have our gun raffle, and that's, but you know, we started doing 2 years ago. I brought back the poker run. So we do a poker run, and for the last couple of years, the money we have raised for that has gone to Save 22, because that's a big thing in our community. Of
course.
You know. Now I have heard at the I think it was a midwinter's conference for the VFW. Now the number has come down. It's no longer 22 a month, which is a good sign.
that's awesome.
You know, but we look for things that we can do to impact people in our community. You know, we do things like that. Another one I started last year, we do a commander's cruise in. So once a month, you know, if you got, I say, if you got a car, bike, or plane, you want to bring it in, you know, we do it on a Saturday morning, come up there, and it's more of a social event. We got coffee, donuts, and guys pull up, hang out, talk about your cars. It's a social event. You know, there's no business or anything like that. It's just a bunch of guys getting together with their rides and want to talk about what we do. You know, as far as, hey, you know, I see, you know.
I feel like if a plane lands at the VFW, we're going to read about it in the paper.
Well, we do got a helicopter out front.
Yes, that's right. I was going to say that helicopter's been a fixture for
feel like
my
that would be
entire
on the
life.
news or something. You know?
Fly, landing on 42 there.
I'll just say that I am a licensed helicopter pilot. I do not own a helicopter, but if you own a helicopter and you would like to land there, I could do that for you.
Let's do it.
Do you want to rent one? I know where you can get one cheap.
Let's do it.
But the other thing we did, we started this last year, and it was honoring the 125th anniversary. Is I may not look like it, but I'm a pretty active guy.
Yeah.
I like staying fit, and I like to ruck. So we did a event last year. It was called the VFW Legacy Ruck, and I got involved with these guys. They're local. They have an organization. They started. It's called All American Rucks.
I think I've seen that advertised a couple of times.
Yeah. Well, I went to their first event. It was a 11. You could do 11 or 22 miler. It was out by Leroy, and I did the 22 miler. I'm like, I had my ruck on. It was 40 pounds, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna see how well we. I ended up coming in 6 hours 9 minutes. I ended up coming in first, and I was like,
Oh, that's
everybody's
awesome.
like,
It's impressive.
I can. You throw a load on me, I can walk. You know. So
Yeah.
they had another one. It was a smoker. And I'm like, it was a smoker. This is only 10K. And what this is, they had a 1 mile loop during the middle, and you had to do, there was a total of 1,000 reps. So they had 11 stations, and they were broken down. You had to do, and everything you had to do with your ruck. So you're taking it off,
Remind me not
lifting
to
it.
do that.
So I really liked this, and I said, hey, I want to do an event with you guys.
I would do that right now.
So this last October at Buckeye Woods, we held an event. We did a 2.5 mile, because the course was 2.5 miles, and we did a 2.5 mile. We call it the 2.5 mile dash. That was in honor of a great friend of mine, and he was a longtime member of our post. His name was Michael Dash, 38 years in the Navy. He was a hell of a guy, and he had passed away. And we wanted to do that and honor him. And that was what we call a friendly. So that was a lot of our older members, and their wives came out. You know, they could do a 2.5 mile. And then we did a 5 mile, and then we did a 10 mile smoker. So every lap, you were doing 120. There's 5 stations, and you're doing 125 reps in one whole lap. So at the end, you're doing 500. So it was a little less than the other one and it smoked me.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when I got to that one, everybody's like, "Hey, you're the one." I'm like, "Yeah." Well, I came in last at that, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm just glad to be," because it was like a barometer to tell you where you're at. So this year we're doing another one. I believe it's I have to look at my calendar. I think it's June 21st. But the cool thing, all the money we're raising for this is going to the VFW National Home for the Children up in Eaton Rapids, Michigan, which is a phenomenal place. If any veterans ever been there, or if you're from Michigan and you're listening to this and you know about it, it's a home where if you're a VFW member or a veteran, and then you're from, and they have individual cottages there from different states. Like there's an Ohio cottage there, there's a California cottage there. And they'll take you in. I think you're limited to 5 years you can live there.
Oh wow!
And they take you in. They'll housing. They do schooling. This is their 100th anniversary.
And is this for a medical center, or is
No,
this,
it's
just
a
to like help
community.
guys get on their feet?
Yeah.
kind of thing?
So say you're a veteran or you're a widow of a veteran, and you're like, I got 2 kids. My husband died in action. Well, they'll take you in up there. And it goes back to, that's what our job is. Nobody does more for veterans. We're here to support our fellow veterans. Can I tell you another real quick story?
Yeah, of course. Many you got.
So I think Ed's familiar with this one. He may have heard about it. I think it was 2 years ago. We like doing a lot with the recruiters here in Medina. I was just talking to the Marine recruiter up at the IX Center.
Oh, good. Tell them to call me back.
So
We've been trying to get those guys on for a while.
I believe it was 2 years ago. 2 of the guys were coming in the post, and they said, "We want to join." And we're like, if you're active duty military, if you're a recruiter, especially because we know you're local, the VFW will pay your first year membership. Okay, because we want to be a good example, so when you get out, you see what the stuff we do. So I swore these 2, one a sergeant, one a staff sergeant, swore them in. I was proud of it. 10 days later, I got a call from the one, and he says, Commander Romans, he says, "I need your help." I'm like, "Yeah, what's the matter?" He said, Staff Sergeant Love was in an accident. He was on a motorcycle. He was up in, Ed, you remember this?
Yeah.
He was coming to work in Strongsville. A lady went through a red light, I believe, hit him, and ended up under the car. And it was really sad. So he says his mom and dad are coming in. They're no longer married, but they need help because the Army, we can't just write a check right now and do stuff. It's going to take a little time for us to get help. Is there anything to VFW? I said, you know what? I said, give me an hour or so. We paid for 4 nights of their parents, 2 different, they were 2 different hotel rooms, we paid for that. We provided meals for them. And the message I was trying to send was, it doesn't matter if you're a member for 10 days or 10 years. If you're a VFW member, we take care of our own. And I'm proud of that. Well, the main recruiting out of Cleveland came down. They presented us with an award and a picture of Staff Sergeant because he ended up passing away. And it really upset a lot of us because here he is. He was a veteran. He had served. He had multiple combat missions. And he comes home on recruiter duty expecting to, easy time, get your ticket punched, and he's no longer with us. And we have that up in our post, and I'm always proud to point it out, but that's what we do. And I want everybody to know that when you're a member of this post, we look out for each and every one, because we all have to. We were there before when we were all dressed the same. We were there for each other. It ain't changing now.
Right. It's funny as you're like all these ideas and things are populating through my head as you're talking about this, and there's some awesome things that you guys have already doing with rucks and stuff. And I wish I would have known about one of those. I would have gladly jumped in those. And then I started thinking, I was like, oh, you can do so much as far as ways to raise money, but also get the community involved because everybody likes exercise nowadays. I feel like that's like the new thing.
Or
whether it's
Ozempic.
yeah, there's always a setback.
I told you he'd fit right in here.
I was actually I was like, oh man, a cold plunge challenge. Like we just had a couple of guys on from Westlake the other day. I was like, we could just get a bunch of vets up there, see who could last the longest in a cold plunge, to raise money and stuff
Chippewa
like
Lake
that.
every year.
There you
My
go.
son-
Yeah, see, that's another way to do it.
My sons do it. I'll get you in there.
But there's all kinds of different ways, and it's good to hear that you're kind of expanding on that, because I do think that those are simple ways that the community could take part in and be part of something as well. And it's fun to do, and it's people that are doing the same stuff that you love, whether it's
Right.
exercise or getting outside, and that leads to, hey, let's go have some food afterwards, let's do this. So hopefully those continue to expand for you and get more people involved in that. And hopefully it does start to really change the community. I think the only experience I had with VFW in Medina was, oh my gosh, and I feel like such a prick right now, but my wife's cousins, there's 5 of them, 5 girls, and their father passed away, Big Red One member. You guys had an event for him. I think it was like 7 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Can't remember his name, but you guys put on a great event. It was a huge barbecue and stuff like that they did up there, where a lot of people joined.
Was he a younger guy?
Yeah, he was probably 30s. I cannot remember. I don't want to put their names on blast because I can't remember his name. But either way, it was a great event. It was a lot of families from all over the county just kind of showed up because they knew him or knew the girls or whatever. And I think that bringing that family into the VFW is a great way to change that image of it's not just a watering hole. But then my other thought was too, obviously there are people that take advantage, or not take advantage, but use it as a place to just go drink and sit. And do you?
Well, here's the thing, real quick too. Is I'll have people say, "Well, I don't drink anymore." I said, "That's fine. I got to take 3 members off the top of my head. They come in on a regular basis. They don't drink.
Yeah.
They don't drink alcohol. They come
Right.
in, have a
Mountain Dew,
a
coffee.
Arnold Palmer or something like that.
Well, and all the dinners you do and everything
Yeah.
else that you got going on up there too. I mean,
Yeah.
it truly is a family. Not just that post, other posts too.
Of course.
You got to try out and see what works for you.
Absolutely.
So you're going to dinner Friday night with your wife up there for the fish fry,
I mean,
right?
why not, right? If not,
Bring
maybe not
Dale
this
along, too.
Friday. This Friday I'm going to see Shane Gillis, but maybe the Friday after that I'll take advantage of some fish fry, because I'm always down for a fish fry anyway, let alone if it's there's a reason for it. But I guess my next question would be, though, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's out there about veterans. We talked about the 22, but drinking, other, not only just alcohol, but other drugs and things like that. Is that something that the VFW takes note of? For instance, if you see a guy in there who's heavily drinking often, or he's there daily and he's getting to the point of, complete intoxication, is that something that you guys take note of and say, hey, maybe we can step in and try to lead this guy to a better path? Or do you kind of just hopefully just make sure he knows that you're there? What does that look like? Because I'm just curious.
Our bartenders all go through training, to identify that, and they have, even when I'm in the post, our bartenders run the canteen. Mm-hmm. That's the way it's set up, and it's set up that way because if, say, I want to get goofy one day and say, hey, we're good. No, you have the responsible person there. Usually most of the people, when they come in, they know. And when we get a new person come in, I always, first thing, if I don't recognize you, I go over there and I introduce myself. Hey, my name's Michael. I'm the commander, And usually what I'll give him a free drink chip. And it's the commander's prerogative. It's my way of saying welcome. Because we get a lot of people that come in from other posts, and they want to come in and say, hey, I heard about this. I want to come in and check out and that. Now, if they start getting a little, I've had one time a bartender had to say, I think this guy's a little. I said, all right, I'll go over and talk to him and that. And if we have to, we'll arrange an Uber ride home for him, because we don't want anybody. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's a protective community. That's what we did it when we served. That's the way I still look at it. That's my vision, like talking about commander's intent. I want to be known as the friendliest post, and I want to be there to be able to help out my members, So we look for, and we really don't have that big of problems with that.
That's good to hear.
Because people know when they come there, it's and nobody wants to embarrass themselves either.
Right.
That's the other thing too. You don't want to come in there and make an ass out of yourself and then come back in and be like, hey man, you really overdid it. Yeah, I know. So, You know, we're really good at police. Same as when we were really good at policing ourselves and that, and self-discipline. So
Sure.
but we have taken provisions in that, as far as driving, giving some a ride home in that, because we want you to have fun. It's a, the VFW, the whole purpose of the canteen was to get, and that's the reason why our drink prices are cheaper. We have a special liquor license because it was set up with the intent where soldiers and servicemen can come back, have a mutual place to bond with each other, when the canteens. So that's why we have, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
And we don't want to violate that.
So what's that membership look like for somebody that's not familiar with it? Like, how does one become, how does one join? What's
To be
that
one, I
process
ask one.
look
No,
like?
that's Mason's, isn't it? So there's two types of way you can join. You can, we have continuous, which is you pay every year, which is $40 a year. So if you want to come in and join, you come on in, you bring your DD-214. We have an application, you fill that out. Easy way to know if you qualify. We have a thing and a list of medals. If you have pretty much any expeditionary medal, that's going to qualify you. In your guys' case, a CIB or a combat action ribbon. You know you're in some.
Right.
Special ones are like if you were in Korea. Say I wasn't in it, but I was in Korea. If you were in Korea for 30 days continuous or 60 days cumulative, you qualify because it's still considered an active zone.
Yeah, especially now.
Submariners. There's a special thing for them because they nuclear deterrent, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So you come in, and if you're qualified, we check. We have a membership committee checks your DD-214. You pay your money, and what will happen at the next meeting? We'll invite you in, but not into the meeting yet because we have to vote on you.
Gotcha.
So bring it to the membership. We say, okay, this is Sergeant so-and-so. He was hers, he came, he was in this time, blah, blah, blah. And do we have a motion to accept him as a member of our post? We vote, and if you are, we bring you in. I read you the ritual and, swear you in. And then we have them come in, tell a little bit about, their service, and then you're a member.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You said you joined when you were 45?
48.
48. And
Yeah.
what led you there?
It's kind of funny. We just moved here, been here a couple of years, and the post was having a fund or a membership drive on the square during the farmers market. And at that time, the commander, it was a woman, Nicole, and she walked up. I had a Desert Storm hat on. She says, "Oh, were you in the military?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Did you serve?" I said, "I'm like," and I was trying not to laugh because I'm wearing a Desert Storm, but I know there's people out there.
Yeah, right.
I said, "Yeah, I was
It's like
like,
when they ask
I
you
shop
for,
at Goodwill.
it's like when they ask for your ID when you say, "Do you have military discount?" And they're like, "Can I see your ID?" I'm like, people say that without. Okay, yeah, but there's always someone.
And she said, "You ever thought about joining the VFW?" And I'm thinking to myself, my father's recently passed, so there's pretty much, it's my brothers and sisters, we're the next generation. And I'm like, man, maybe it's time for me to grow up, and start being responsible. And I said, yeah, what would this take? And she explained it to me, and then I said, if I'm going to join, I'm going to dive in head first. And I signed up right away for a life membership and joined the Honor Guard, which is great because our Honor Guard, we do a lot of ceremonies down at Rittman, at the National Cemetery. At least once a month we're down there.
Really, Rittman's the national cemetery?
Yes, it is.
I did not know that.
And as a matter of fact,
There's
that's
a freeway sign right
It's
here.
actually called.
I don't want.
It's called the Ohio Western Reserve
Reserve.
I do
National
not want to be
Cemetery.
buried in Rittman. Sorry, Rittman.
and that's another thing Ed's office helped me with because a couple of years ago I was sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm in my 50s now. I better start really. What happens? I fly for a living. What happens if one day I don't come home? Who's going to get my? I want to be down at Rittman. Who's going to get that stuff in order? Because I know when my father passed, he was a veteran trying to get his services. I'm like, well, he didn't tell us where any stuff was. So we're rooting around, trying to find it. So I went down to Ed's office, and I think it took 15 minutes or so to get us processed. And, so now it's in the system. My family knows that if I They're going to get his heads office, figure out whatever, the details. I'm not going to be able to
He
help.
lands that airplane on the VFW.
Yeah.
No, but that's a great point because my wife has that all the time. Like, well, and she just lost her father. Gosh, it's probably been 5 years now, but he was a veteran, and she's like, I don't even know what to do. Like, obviously, on top of that, you just lost your father or your husband or your wife or whoever it is. So, having a go-to of like, hey, look, it's all handled for you ahead of time. Just go here. That's probably awesome.
And we get asked sometimes to do special services. Can I share about the other day?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I was on the road when it happened, but we all heard 2 weeks ago
About 2 or 3 weeks.
that that veteran who crashed a helicopter into Mogador Reservoir.
God, how did I not hear about that?
I don't feel so bad you didn't hear about my office now.
I'm going to paraphrase the story. Ed, correct me. I know you might. I guess his wife just recently passed, like within the last week.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then he died in his helicopter crash. And Ed contacted us, said, hey, the wake service is going to be up in Parma. Would you guys like to come do the ceremony for it? And our honor guard went up there, and we felt privileged to be able to do that, to do the firing and the bugle and that for him there.
Yeah, so I was going to ask. I mean, I remember, being active and serving on the post honor guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar for the VFW. So you're, I assume, traveling and doing ceremonies throughout the state of Ohio. Do you travel outside of the state of Ohio? Is it
No,
random?
we mostly do just down at National Cemetery
Okay.
and local or for members. We'll go down there, and we have a regular team, and when we're there, we're assigned there a day, and so usually it's a Thursday, and they'll let us know a couple days before how many funerals there's going to be. Sometimes there's 3, 4. Sometimes there's 8, 9.
Wow.
They do them every 15 minutes down there, and we'll go down there, and we do the whole honors. The firing squad.
Sure.
Play taps and that, and then our chaplain will go up, present the family with the shells from the firing and that, because they always have whatever branch it was, a military honor guard from that branch of service that actually does the flag folding. So
let me ask you this: when you see it on TV, does it bother you like hell when they all go off at different times? It sounds like popcorn.
Oh, it's when you're golfing out at Rawiga, and you're out there golfing, and it's right next door, and you hear that, and you're like, oh, somebody's having a bad day out there.
Yeah. So I got to throw some defense in there though. So these folks that do this now, just about every veterans organization has color guards that go out in their local community and do this, and it's funny because I'll have people be like, oh, those military men that fired. And I'll be like, did you really look at them? And they're like, what do you mean? I'll be like, well, some of them were like 75 years old. So that just goes to show you that, we never forget our own. And, we got guys and gals out here that are almost, some of them are in their 80s even, and they're still out there in the freezing rain, the pouring snow or the pouring rain, the freezing snow, whatever. Doing this for their comrades.
Yeah, I was going to say, still be doing that in their 70s and 80s,
Yeah.
I remember. But you know what? There's like something about that like makes you your very best.
Oh,
that day.
absolutely, because this is the last time their family is going to ever have any association with them, and we want that to be as memorable as possible.
Yes.
Because nobody wants to embarrass themselves, and we definitely don't want to, and we want to be able to, their family to remember that was a beautiful ceremony.
Yeah. After my last tour, I got signed to Fort Riley's for a while, twice actually. First time I was before I ever been deployed is just I was an E4, and then second as an NCO is actually an NCOIC for the guard, and that was one thing that I tried to share with people, because the first time I did it, 18 years old, I took it serious because my commander told me to, or my NCO told me to, right? Not because I was a young kid and I did what I was told when I was in the military. Like, I was a good soldier. But my second time, it was after being deployed multiple times, and it definitely meant more to me. And like trying to share that with these guys that were 17, 18 years old that just got to Fort Riley, got put on this detail, and it's like, just understand, like, this person, just think of it as you're overseas and somebody just passed over there in battle. Like, that's the degree, like, to this, what it is. Because you're right. It's every association that they have with the military. Like, you want to look your best. You want to sound your best. It's perfection, and of course, I understand 70s, 80-year-old men, they're out there. They're still trying. I guarantee they want to be perfect every time they do it because.
And they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Another aspect that I noticed is my wife's a teacher, 5th grade, Veterans Day. You guys always usually show up. They always do like a Veterans Day parade and everything, concert. And the kids love it.
Yeah.
They're all 10, 11 years old. And I've been watching this now for 15 years with my new wife, who gets a free pass to heaven for sticking around. But it's awesome. I mean, I've watched it through multiple of the elementary schools and then through Brunswick High School and everything else. And it's great. Football games and everything else. Like, there'll be multiple events where they show up, and it's cool. Like, everybody just, they love it.
In some in a community like, I mean, we don't have an Army base or a Navy base or anything close by. I mean, those guys are the connection to the military for our youth.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the ones that youth is going to look at when they're 17, 18 and go, I think I might go down and talk to my recruiter because of what I saw on Veterans Day at my elementary school. I mean, so, they're representing the military still.
Well, and here's the other aspect of it too, and this we'll go a little off topic and a little more humorous side to it, I guess you would say, is we talked about the youth today versus the youth prior, right? So those soldiers that are 70, 80s, 60s, 50s, 40s are different than the soldiers that, and not all of them, I don't mean to lump every 25-year-old soldier into a group, but it's different, right? I feel like there's been a change in men overall over the course of the last 7 or 8 years too. So when you're seeing these guys in the parades and things like that, like, there's something different about it. It's like I tell people, like, I can go on YouTube now and learn how to do something, but man, my dad, he found out the hard way how to do something. And I think that goes back to these veterans too, is when you look at these veterans that are 70, 80s that served in Vietnam, or these guys that spent, time overseas during Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that. Like, there's a hardness to them that you just, like, that's the kind of soldier I want to be if I'm going to be a soldier when I grow up, and I'm wondering, do you guys think that there's been a change in the military over the course of this last 5-6 years? Because just in men in general over the last 5-6 years, there's definitely a culture change that's happened, and it's being battled on, private grounds here and there.
I think technology has a lot to do with it also, though.
Yeah.
A lot of the Marines, soldiers, military of today, they have to be really intelligent, and they are trained in a whole new manner with all the computer systems and everything else.
Yeah.
Or even if you just go back 15 years, we just started getting computers. Like, it
A little closer to that, sorry.
but we were still writing reports, and you didn't have the technology that they have of today. So there's definitely a difference, and I don't know which way is better or worse.
Right.
I would say that the old school guys were more hands-on, and the new style, they're much more educated. They're definitely more educated and understand things that I could never comprehend.
Right.
The systems that they run, the way they even call for fire and stuff like that now is nothing like 15 years ago. Yeah. So
All computer.
It's amazing. It is amazing, and it takes a different type of person to be able to do all that computer stuff instead of being in charge of the men. And let's go from A to B and take this out and secure this area.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a new world,
Sure.
And I am glad that I was more from the other style, because I did not want to learn all of the technology and everything else. I want to keep us alive. I want to get from A to B, get our job done. And I would have no desire to sit there and have computers all through my arms, and you have to have your laptops with you and your satellites and everything else.
Multitask.
And it's unbelievable, So I give the young kids credit. What they do is totally different from what I even did, and mine's only 15 years ago or so. So definitely have to change with the times,
Yeah.
and that's our future. So hopefully what they do, they keep doing it good.
Yeah.
I think society's changed, obviously, and I'd probably say that in some ways this generation's better than mine and better than those before. I know we look at it from, a guy perspective and, discipline and everything else, but I'll go back to a couple things. So you go back and you say, well, it was tougher back then. Well, look at the Rockefeller. You ever see a picture of the Rockefeller family?
Yeah.
None of them are smiling, right?
Right.
Those were tough times, even if you were a millionaire. You lived in a house that still had dirt floors. Somebody may have cleaned it for you, but there was no electricity. You were starting fires and all. It was tough. And, and I've had this conversation with some veterans that, from previous wars, they go, oh, well, the veterans today, they're all this and they're all that and blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, a 7.62 round flying by your head, I don't care if you're in a wool coat with boots up to your mud, or if you're in a nice parka with the boots that we got today and all the gear, a 7.62 round flying by your head is a 7.62 flying by your head. And it's just as dangerous no matter what you're wearing. The other thing is the last 3 years I was in the military, I taught, I came back from a couple deployments. I knew I was going to retire. I took a job teaching ROTC at a college. And it was during the war, so every one of those kids that signed up knew they were going to war, because back then everybody was going.
Right.
And, since the time I became a corporal, everybody that was under my charge, I would ask why you joined the military. And I got various reasons. And most of the folks that joined when I did, joined it for college money or because they didn't have a job or something like that to go do. And every one of those kids that joined it, that I signed, or I didn't sign up, but were going through our program at the college, joined it because they wanted to fight for their country and defend it. And that was out of their mouth. There was no, I wanted college money, I wanted to get away from my parents.
They knew the judge is making me.
They knew well, easy there, brother. So they knew what they signed up for, and whatever philosophy they had or whatever, I got to give them credit for that.
Sure,
I really do. So I don't know. I think this generation has a lot to learn. I think they got to figure a lot of stuff out that we probably don't understand. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I think as we get older, we tend to look at it and go, our way was better. I don't know if that's maybe age. I don't know if it really was better. I got maybe 20 good years left on this world. I just tell them not to screw it up until. But my hat goes off to these young men and women that raise their right hand and go out and defend our country.
What do you hear from the recruiters? You guys are in contact with several of them. Recently here, obviously, but what do you hear from them about today's?
So that whole DOD, VA recruiters don't really want to talk to us because, and I understand it. As a first sergeant, the last thing I want you to tell my soldiers is how to go get benefits when you get out. And so, I know recruiters, it more so today than in the past. It is kind of a plug. Hey, you can get college. They've always sold that, but you can get VA benefits, and they do. But I don't think recruiters really, push what I'm pushing as far as benefits because, you don't want to tell a kid, hey, well, join the service for 4 years and you can get out with, 6 different types of cancer if you go to Iraq.
No, but what here's where I would say, I think that in this new day and age, transparency is key, and understanding the future is key. So if I were a recruiter, I would simply walk them to your office or my group of recruits and have a meeting with you or have you come in once a month, because I would say, hey, look, you're not just having a job for 4 years, you're joining a family that lasts an eternity. Right. So when you do get out, there's guys like Michael, there's guys like Jeff, there's guys like Ed, there's companies, like the Medina County Federal Veterans Office, there's the VFW, there's all these different things that are out there to continue that family. It's not just while you're serving.
I think that goes with the new generation.
Yeah.
That's what the new generation looks at. They think about the future. They think of all those things.
Definitely.
Our generation thought, well, there's wars. That'd be fun.
Well, I definitely don't want to go
on deployment.
Yeah.
Oh, Marines fight a lot and eat crayons. That sounds cool. And it was just a different scenario, literally, Desert Storm kicks off. All of a sudden, everybody wants to go. They want to go. Yeah. There's nothing to do. Let's, we're in Parma and Cleveland, and what are we going to do here? And we never even thought about medical or dental or something down the road. And today's society, they do, and it's good that they do. But that's what's different, and it doesn't make them wrong. at all. And,
I think
mean,
your point's good though, and I can't tell you if they're doing that or not. I
No,
don't
I
talk
mean,
to a whole lot of recruiters too
Yeah.
often.
They should.
Unless I
It's
see them
actually
at
a great idea.
unless I see them at a community event. So I can't say they are or not. I know they're not doing it with me.
Right.
Maybe they should.
No,
but
it's just
I
something
agree
that
with, I
as it
agree with
came up.
the transparency. I mean, because it's out there on the internet. I mean, I couldn't go on the internet when I joined and go, "Hey, what's going to happen to me?" And where today they can actually see it. So
great
why
point,
not?
too.
Why not let them know?
Yeah.
It's a good piece.
we just knew what our recruiters told us, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
it's going to be great.
I joined for the GI Bill, but I never went to college. I just told my parents that I think so they'd sign when I was 17. Oh, I'm gonna get free
yeah.
college out of this. Like,
We gave $100 a month. We didn't know why.
yeah,
Okay.
I just know that I don't want to go to college. The Army seemed really good at that time.
Yeah.
Now here's a statistic. The Marine recruiters were right next to us today, and they had a pull-up bar there, and people coming
yeah.
by and they're jumping up, and I'm talking to this one recruiter, and I said, since last 5 months, have you noticed a difference? He says, not as much as you think. He says, it's still. He says about 20% of the people that come in my office qualify.
Yeah,
I said, what? He goes, well, medical. I guess now the medical records, they can look back in them.
yeah. Yeah, so like before it was when you signed up, they're like, hey, don't tell them about that knee injury you
Yep.
had your junior year of football.
Yep.
Now it's completely different. They know all of that.
Well, police records, they used to just go where you lived. Well, now
Right.
all those records are on some database, I mean.
It's not even just before, too. My buddy that I was telling you about, the recruiter in Washington, he's like, dude, I've had guys, like, you are holding your breath, hoping not to get a call the night they're at MEPS or the night that they're actually getting ready to ship out, because something will get flagged in the system, like the way that he
Medication.
said something,
Medication.
a
Yep.
medication,
That's the biggest one.
uh, you know,
Psych meds and everything.
these
yeah.
random things that come up, or like you find out that 7 years old they got put on Ritalin, and like now they're out, they're done.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if he's 6 foot, 180 pounds, and runs a 4.40 and he's athletic.
1000%.
It doesn't matter because they're looking for almost reasons not to send you. And then we've talked about on this show a lot. Obviously, obesity is a significant issue in this culture as we're in now. So that's also another aspect of why people aren't qualifying, not able to do the physical requirements.
The surprising one was, he said, it's the the testing. He says,
ASVAB?
he says math. He says they can't do math, so we have to show them how to do the math.
Old school way.
He says they don't read, so in that part of it where you have to, go over the sentence and
comprehension.
this, he says, and we bring them in and we teach them that. We'll say, okay, we have to you are going to relearn this, and you'll see their scores come up in that. He says, but it's, like you said, it's the first thing they do is they look at the medical. Like you said, if you've been on any of the ADHD medication, boom, you're gone.
Yep.
Then it's the, all right, well, let's test you. And your tests, all right, well, we need to work on them. And it's just so much harder. I remember when I was in, I was 11 months in the DEP program. My recruiter loved me. I came in and said, I want it. And he's like,
Yeah, right
okay.
here.
Yeah, that was his dream. There was no.
Signed up the day I turned 17. I just had to wait to graduate high
Yeah.
school. Let's go.
And it was just one of those things where, recruiting nowadays is just, and that's why we try to reach out and help these guys. And I've told the recruiters in Medina, I said, if you guys need a facility to like hold, if you're doing an event or something, I said, we got a beautiful pavilion in the back and we got a big field behind there. I said, if you're doing like maybe a Saturday PT session or something, you can do a classroom session and then open the doors, go right out and back. I said, we're here for you because eventually you're going to be one of us. So
Yeah, my buddy and I talked about it too, because I just went and visited when I was in Oregon, and we obviously when you get back with your guys from 20 years ago, it's just like, and I was like, dude, if I was the Army or if I was trying to recruit people, I would stop with all this like look cool in combat stuff. I would stop talking about college. I would start talking about like, dude, 20 years later, I'm out in Oregon going crabbing with a buddy that I spent 4 years in the military with, or 30 years later, I'm going hiking with this guy. There is nothing that you can compare to the relationships. And it doesn't matter if a guy, obviously we were in a headquarters unit for 134 Armor, our barracks. So you had support platoons, scouts, mortars. You had everybody in the same barracks from all these different platoons. And it didn't matter if you met them one time on a Friday night when you guys were just randomly drinking in the barracks. Like, if they needed something, you were down to help them out, man. Like, and they were your, if even now, like the 134 Armor Facebook page and stuff, like something happens or someone passes away or somebody tells a funny story from 20 years ago, like everyone remembers it. Like there's nothing like that camaraderie that's in the military. No. To this day, you cannot duplicate it in anything else that you do. I don't care if you play high school sports or any of that stuff. It's just different.
One of the best feelings that people can have when they're down is helping somebody else.
For sure.
And until they do that, you don't understand it. But you could be having a real shit day and be stressed and everything else, and then you find someone that you know that you can help them, and it's legit, and you feel better. And that's kind of like the military. It can be 5 years and not see one of your brothers, and you just see each other and bust each other's balls, and just get through it together. And
or like, dang, I'm sorry your relationship's not working out, man. Like, what, like there's just anything and everything. Like you just can get involved real quickly, and I'm sure you see that a lot even still.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Last rotation, I was out last week when I was out on rotation with work. I finally got in touch with 2 of my 3 drill instructors from boot camp. Now this is back in '88. I went in. Okay, so we're talking 37 years ago.
Yeah.
And I got a hold of my senior and one of the juniors, and I talked to him on the phone. And the senior, he's living in Australia right now, and him and I talked for like 2.5 hours one night, and it was cool. And it's like, and then I said, so what happened to Staff Sergeant? He goes, oh, he passed away. He was 42 years old, passed away of cancer. He was ended up making a sergeant major, but he. Jeez. And I said, what about Sergeant Behrman? He says, oh, he goes, Dan or Dave? I said, yeah. Well, I never called him Dave, so I didn't even know that was his first name. So he goes, here's his number. Call him. I said, well, I'm going to send him a text first, So the next day I sent him a text and waited about 2 hours and nothing reply. I'm like, all right, I'm going to send him something. Because, so he gets weird texts. You don't know if somebody's fishing. So I sent him something I know he would only remember. It was a saying. He told us one time, he wrote it on a chalkboard, and he said, discipline is that which next to integrity sets one man above another. And so from then on, during the whole time, he would just point, and we knew if he pointed, that was our cue to repeat it.
Yeah.
And so I sent that text to him. 5 minutes later, he called me up, and he knew I was the real deal. I was, and he remembered me, and he's like, and we were happened to flying into Oklahoma City where he lived, and at the last minute, our trip changed, and I said, man, we're not going to make it there. We got to go to Dallas instead. But he's like, if you're ever out here, I would be glad to see you in that. I mean, he was a monster of a guy. I mean, he was an Amtracker, and he was just intimidating. And it's funny. My friend of mine, she says, how do you remember these people? And I had a friend who was in the Army. He goes, I said, you remember your drill instructors? And that's like, I said, I still remember Platoon 3079, Mike Company, 3rd Training Regiment out of San Diego, California, March 14th, 1988, day I graduated, became a man.
Man.
And they're like,
we can't remember yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah,
we know that stuff.
Dude, I remember every single one of our drill sergeants from our companies and like what they were known for, dude. We had the lumberjack who just like straight out of the hills of Kentucky, like 6'4", 290. His last name was Ludenberg.
But did they know what they were known for?
There's no way they didn't know. I remember the funniest one though was Sergeant Santiago. This dude was jacked. I mean, shredded as all get out, but he was maybe 5'4". So like. And he was quiet voice. So when he tried to get loud, it was like, you're like trying to keep your. One day he pulls into formation. He's a little bit late, and you know how like telephone poles sometimes have those wires go down. Mm-hmm. He had a Integra. I never forget what is it, Honda Integra or whatever it was, and he came in and he split that thing, and that thing went right into the center of the bunny. He goes, I don't know what you guys are all laughing at. We did push-ups for an hour because he ran into the pole. But it's like you just remember every little detail about those times, and it's. So I'm surprised that recruiting doesn't go back into that more because I feel like that's what more people are missing, especially with. Maybe
we should call recruiter command and give them some ideas. I mean, they pay big money for that marketing.
I told him I was like, guys need to come on. I was like, I would actually want to do something with the warehouse gym where I was like, it'd be great if you guys get all your recruits together that are currently signed up. There's a ton of high schoolers that go to our gym already. they'll sign up just for competition. And I was like, then you'll get a bunch of old farts like me that want to show these young butts up. I was like, you can run us all through your entire military fitness test on a Friday or Saturday afternoon. I was like, it'll give you a ton of content for your social media creators. Right. Not to mention, it'll be hilarious to watch some of these guys try and do this, and then some of these kids try to keep up with them.
I'm pretty sure they would have to clear that all the way through Fort Knox.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a paper trail. I'm sure.
So just a statistical note on recruiting. Colleges, I think, are picking them up. So I just kind of started thinking about that with because we heard that when we talked to the recruiters here in Medina, they specifically talked about mathematics and getting people there were actually high school kids that were in there studying and practicing so they can get them over the hoop, or over the hump. But in the 90s, university enrollment was at about 13.8 million. And then, fast forward to 2010, 2021. 2010 was kind of the peak. It was at 18 million. So annually, 18 million going. So those numbers were going up. And then it came down a little bit over the last couple of years. And then it's projected to go back up. So, I mean, we have a lot of discussion about kids today, which he's a parent. I'm not a parent. But we
Congratulations.
most successful pull-out game because it's not for lack of activity.
Congratulations
my friends know.
on all your success.
Sorry. Pull-out champion again, year over year.
On a kind of a weird note, have any of you guys grew up with somebody and you realized and you found out what they're doing now and you're like,
yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
I got one, and I grew up south suburbs of Chicago. Okay, and a little over a year ago, a bunch of my junior high people had a get together, and they're like, "Hey, Romans, you coming out?" I'm like, "I'm gonna try." I couldn't make it out there, but I talked to them on the phone. We were FaceTiming and that, and we were talking, and then they said, "I'm like, oh, so what about so and so? They make it on?" I'm like, "Hey, has anybody ever heard what happened to John?" And they're like, "I heard he went in the Army, man." And I'm like, and one of the guys like, "Oh man, John's a badass." I'm like, "Really?" I Google John McPhee. You guys familiar with him?
The name sounds familiar, but I couldn't
Sheriff
tell you.
of Baghdad.
Oh yeah, I just saw him on a podcast not too long ago.
I went to grade school.
No shit.
Yeah, I was, and I did a search and that. I'm like, and I'm like, is this real? So now he's all over YouTube. And
yeah, he's all over
and I watched his podcast. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how he was in school.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I was just totally blown away. I'm like,
yeah, he just kind of populated out of nowhere over the last year, which is funny because you don't hear stories like that. Obviously, 20 years ago or whatever.
If anybody ever said, back in junior high, one of these guys is going to be a command sergeant major of Delta Force.
Yeah,
I've been like, what's Delta Force? First of all, and you listen to the story, and I'm like, man, but that's the type of guy he was, and he just, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's another thing too. I'm surprised that's not leading to more higher recruitment level too. Is social media for some of these guys that served and have between Jocko and Tim Kennedy and Sheriff of Baghdad, who's really been on a lot recently. Some of these guys, and there's more to it. Sean
Ryan.
Yeah, Sean Ryan does his podcast.
Mike from the Mike Drop podcast.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different guys that are out there doing it and talking about their experiences, and obviously now they're doing it on a reactive to what's going on in the world type of thing. But I'm really surprised that more of that is not driving some more recruitment.
Well,
levels.
that's like I don't know. I
mean, who wants to go to college, guys?
People like that.
Save your money.
It's like watching LeBron play, and that's supposed to increase recruiting in the NBA.
Well, I could tell you that everybody wanted to be like Mike when I was in high school.
Well, yeah.
Everybody played basketball with their tongue out. Look at even Kobe Bryant caught on to it. Come on,
boy.
But
speaking of helicopters,
yeah. Ooh.
Is it too early?
Too soon.
So, Will, I got a question. I know you had people send in questions and stuff like that. I just want to make sure we answered any of them.
Yeah, of
If
course.
there's anything like that going on?
Yeah, because we're getting up there. I don't want to take up too much more of your guys' time. I guess the biggest one that I saw was, do you guys do anything to help guys with connecting with VA loans for houses and stuff like that. Do you guys share information on that?
I got a guy.
I'll get the information. I'll get some more details on that question, but I'll start with that.
So the VA home loan is probably one of the benefits that I would assume most people know about, because in the service, while you're still in, you can use the VA home loan process, where most other benefits you got to get out. I will say it is a little bit underutilized, and maybe there's some reasons for that. We don't specifically advertise anything, I guess, any particular benefit. We do advertise changes in the law, new benefits, things like that. The VA home loan is a great process. What some people don't understand about it is it's not a loan. So if somebody does come in, 20 years ago, we would be filling out a form and trying to get them a certificate that they would take to their bank and go, hey, I'm eligible. Today, they just go in their bank, give them their Social Security number. Every major bank out there that is anybody punches that Social Security number in and goes, you're eligible for a VA home loan.
Right.
So as long as you still meet the criteria for the loan, which is your credit rating and everything else, the loan's actually a loan guarantee. So what it does is you don't have to put a deposit down when you buy a house. Normally you got to put 20% down when you buy a house, I guess. It's been a while since I bought one. But you got to have the 20%. So it's geared toward those service members that are just getting out of the service. They haven't got a lot of money put in the bank, and they can still go out and buy the home loan without that large deposit. So a lot of older veterans that have the deposit, and I tell people this all the time too, if you're going to put a deposit down or you have a deposit, talk to the bank about other loans, because sometimes it is more viable or a better option to go another direction. Now, VA home loan, great thing. You don't put a deposit down, you don't pay the closing costs. The VA makes sure that your house is inspected and everything else. So for the new homeowner, it is a great process. And even maybe for the second, third, fourth time homeowner, if you don't want to put the money down. But I always tell people, go talk to your bank, get the loan, tell them you're eligible for VA. They'll let you know. And if you're thinking about something else, ask them what the rates are for the other loans. Because sometimes if you are putting the 20 or 30 or 40% down, you'll get a better rate even with the closing costs. It's an individual, but I don't necessarily have an ad up. It is on our website along with most of the other things out there. But I think about 15% of veterans utilize the VA home loan, which you would think it would be higher, because since veterans are a higher homeowner ratio percentage-wise than the normal.
So you guys
non-veteran.
you do advocate for it to
Oh
to
yeah,
use it
I wouldn't tell
initially?
anybody. Yeah, I wouldn't tell anybody not to use it. But what I do tell people is make sure you look at all the options with loans across. Just like comparing a 20-year with a 30-year loan. I mean, if you can, some people can't afford it, so they're going.
Right.
If you can afford the 20 or 15-year loan because you're going to pay it off, then why would you take the 30-year loan and pay the higher interest costs? So look at all your options and then make your choice. But
So first of all, if you're a veteran and you're home shopping here in Ohio, you're going to call me because I'm a licensed realtor here, first of all. No, but I was literally having this conversation with two veterans who are married to each other, and we're just now beginning the home shopping process for them. So they're both eligible. And I gave them the same advice. They're buying their first home. There is here in Ohio with a VA zero down, you can purchase a home for $100,000 or under $100,000. And now, no names with who they are, but they have money in the bank.
Right.
So they could do a
Wait,
conventional.
there's not a limit on $100,000 for you to do a VA loan. It's
No.
zero down.
No.
Okay.
there's a cap going
I'm
up.
saying there's a cap going up, but what I'm saying is that you can purchase a home here in Ohio for $100,000. You cannot purchase a home in California you can't purchase a home for $200,000 in California.
You get a 10 out there.
Right, but you're saying the
Right.
VA caps it now?
No,
at 100?
no.
Oh,
Just
okay.
let me-
Well,
let
when
me-
you said $100,000, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like,
No.
why are we mentioning a cap? Okay.
Okay, so here in Ohio, you can buy a $100,000 home. You may be better off using one of the other products like an FHA loan, for instance, where you're only going to put 3.5% down on the home because that's $3,500. You may have $3,500. The reason you would want to do that when you're buying your first home is because there's a cap, so you can buy multiple homes and use your VA benefit, but you may be better off saving your VA benefit till you buy your second or your third home, because the dream of I'm buying my forever home right now and I'm never going to move again, that's not the case
Gotcha.
anymore. People live in their homes for 3, 4, or 5 years, and then they start having children and they move up. But if you're buying your first home in Arizona or Nevada or California, you're probably going to have to use your VA benefit right away, because you're going to be buying it.
But you can use so if I buy one home with a VA loan, I can go out and buy a second home with that VA loan once and liquidate that other loan.
Correct.
So you can use that multiple
Right.
times throughout your lifetime.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was getting. I thought you were saying like if you buy $100,000 home and your bet, I think it's like 500,000 or whatever it is, like or 250,000, like you can't use 250,000 again or whatever is what I was trying to say. But yeah, if you once you close it out, you
Right.
can then go again.
And the interesting, at our last meeting, our service officer was talking, and Ed can elaborate more. I know if it's 100% disability, your taxes on your home, is it your home taxes?
So that is a state product. Yeah. So if you're 100% permanent and total, then you apply for the Homestead Act. It's $50,000 comes off of your taxes here in the state of Ohio.
Which is,
and
I think is great.
every state has different.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think
laws.
Oregon actually you pay zero
Yeah,
property tax if you're at 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, but everything else in Oregon costs much more than Ohio.
Definitely.
There's no sales tax there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know every state's different in trying to look at it. So let's share some of those last few things. What are some things that veterans might not realize they qualify for when they are considered disabled and they're getting some of these benefits at different tiers?
So probably the biggest two are the state benefits here in Ohio is the Homestead Act, like he talked about. The other is the Ohio War Orphans and Severely Disabled Scholarship. Used to just be called, it's always met that qualification, but it used to be called just Ohio War Orphan Scholarship. So one would think you had to be deceased to get it. But if you're 60% rated by the VA or higher, your children are also eligible for that. We went to the legislators maybe 10 years ago and said, hey, we should change the name of this. And they did. Just kind of made sense. So I would say that's probably one of the most underutilized is that War Orphan Scholarship for those that are eligible, because people don't hear about it.
Now, did I read somewhere that at 100% immediate family, so wife, kids, do get schooling in the state of Ohio, education?
100% permanent and total. They get, so that War Orphan Scholarship would open up to the children. The spouse would be eligible for the same as the children with Chapter 35 from the federal government. So that's across the nation, not in the
Gotcha.
state of Ohio. Yeah.
Okay. And then anything else regarding that guys should know that they can look into? Obviously, they can check into your office and you'll go over some of that stuff.
I
with them,
think,
right?
CHAMP VA, which is healthcare for those 100% service-connected folks for the rest of their families they're eligible for. I think one of the things that I tell people is laws change. And this, I've ran into widows that, their husband passed away in 1992 and they would be eligible for nothing in 1992. But today they haven't remarried and now they're eligible because those benefits have changed from whatever their husband may or spouse had died from. So I tell people, and, check back, because what I tell you today may be different 5 years down the road. And especially with, with the PACT Act and all this, the toxic chemicals, and there's going to be more cancers added to that list, and there's going to be more illnesses added to that list. They just added 4 to the Agent Orange just from Vietnam. So if your loved one passed away and it gets added, you can come back at that. Or if you're still alive and something's added, you can come back at it. So don't think that you're done. Fight. But the law may change and it may make it easier for you to get that benefit.
So something that I thought of too, do you do announcements? Like I know you have some social media page, which we'll announce those so that people can follow you on those. But do you guys do announcements on your pages and stuff like, hey, this changed?
Yeah, whenever there is a major change, like when the PACT Act came out, we were advertising that quite a bit in newsprint, social media, all over the place. So if there is a major change to a law, whenever they add a new presumptive condition to the list, or like when they changed the VA for life, they came out with the new life insurance policy. We advertise that as much as we can on social media.
And for someone who's just curious, can they just walk into your office and be like, hey, I just have some questions, and then you guys have somebody there to answer them for them?
By all means, yeah. So if you come in, typically, we'd ask, make an appointment because we don't want you to come in if we're busy. But there is somebody that can give you general information, and then tell you, like, if we need to talk further or you have more questions, we'll set you up with an appointment with one of our service officers. By all means, yeah.
Awesome. Anything else that you want to share with people that are listening? If there's any, like I said, your social media handles, we'll put those in the description so that people can click on them and go right to your sites. But anything else that you want to make sure people are aware of that are out there?
Yeah, I just want to say that, we're here to help. We are a county office. We serve Medina County. And, if you have a question, call. No question is too small. No question is too big. If we don't have the answer, we'll find out for you. If you simply want us to go over, I kind of force people to do this is I want to explain to you why you got what you want, because I don't want you to go away angry. And a lot of times you got what you want is because that's what the law says. But understanding that helps, because at least then the VA got it right. Whether you disagree with it or not, if they got it right, they got it right. Go talk to your congressman and fix the law. But a lot of people walk away and go, I don't deserve, I should get more. And understanding why they got it sometimes helps. Sometimes it doesn't. But we're there to serve you, and I believe that. And so give us a call. We're happy to entertain any questions you got or help you with whatever you need.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you stopped by. And then, Michael, is there anything that you want to share too?
Just for those veterans out there, especially the GWAT era. If you're looking for a place, I'm always going to promote my post, but I'm also district commander, or going to be district commander. And there's 33 posts in District 7. District 7 is Medina County, Cuyahoga County, Lake, Geauga, and Ashtabula County. So the furthest west post is North Olmsted, Seville, going all the way out to Conneaut.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got a pretty big district.
It's crazy when you say district. I'm expecting them to say like states, but I guess it's just there's so many of them.
Yeah,
that
there's
are
12
out
districts
there.
in the state of Ohio, and there's all those posts in there's 33 of them fall under District 7. So if you're listening to this and you don't live around here, you live on the eastern portion of the state, go check in your VFW. And if you say, well, it's not what I don't agree with those people, or I don't fit in with those people. Well, because they're old, especially when I hear this, well, those are like a bunch of older guys. Well, they're not going to be around. And the stuff you can learn from them. And I'll tell you what, 5 of my best friends are all 75 plus. Those are the guys I golf with during the summer in the league. It's the bonds and friendship you join, you have, and you're the next generation of the VFW,
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Jeff, what else? You got anything? I know you brought your folder with you. I saw
mine,
that.
actually.
Oh, that's yours. Okay, I wasn't sure if there's anything else you
I
want to
bring
share.
nothing of importance. Mine would just be for fellow veterans. You're going to hit rock bottom at some point, and there's ways to get out of it. And there's lots of people out there that will help you. You got to do some of the work, and it's worth it. And that's what I'm here for. So you're going through some stuff, and you think it's not going to get any better. It can get better. You got to put in a little bit of work. You got to make some phone calls. You got to reach out. And there are organizations out here that are here for us, and they can help you. And there's other positive things you can do than to keep making the things worse. So hopefully this gets out to a few people. And it helps a few people in that aspect also.
If it helps one, it helps many, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
My last question for both of you guys, and I don't know if this is something that you guys do. Do you guys, because I'm obviously guys' night started on the prospect of a bunch of guys getting together and just doing random stuff. So like when I think of VFW, I'm like, man, if I wanted to find 7 guys to just hang out and go to the gun range for a day, I probably could find 7 there that like to do that. Right?
You probably could.
But
No
do you,
problem, yeah.
but do you guys partner with other companies, other programs? Talk about getting the word out there. The best way to do that is, are there companies in the area that you guys partner with that maybe help with VA loans, or that help with finding work for guys that look for veterans to be part of their company or their job sites or anything? Do you guys currently partner with anybody? Do you guys have a spot where people could go to like find places? Specifically, we live here in Medina County, but like I think that this is something that VFWs and people in your agency would do all over the state is, hey, look, these are, if you're looking for work and you need work right now, these are companies that are always looking for veterans. Or do you guys do anything currently like that now?
Yeah, so remember, I'm a government office, so
Yes.
I got to be careful when I start to look at, private entities, and am I promoting them, or am I just talking to them about the veterans that they have work for them? So we go out and engage with a lot of different corporations. When a corporation starts a big layoff, we'll go out and talk to all their folks for veterans and stuff like that. We go to a lot of civic meetings, civic gatherings to promote our office. What I can't do is promote your office. So,
Gotcha.
People bring in literature, and we provide literature out of different businesses that help veterans, senior centers, real estate folks, that are doing home loans and things like that. But I can't actively go, hey, go see Bob. He's going to sell you a house.
Gotcha.
We try to do as much community. And in Medina County, I said it earlier, we're still a rural community. Me talking to you is the best, public advertising I can do. I can put stuff in the newspaper all day, but if I talk to one person, he's going to talk to 10 if he likes me or
Yeah,
if she
of
likes
course.
me. So, before we close, I just want to thank Dan for putting up for four vets for 2 hours. I know it can't be easy. So,
First question is, who's Dan?
Oh,
Dave.
man. Hey, he's about to retire.
I think I called you Frank earlier, didn't I? Or something like that. Yeah. So I apologize.
David did put up well.
All right, wait a minute. We're going to cut that out. Hey, Dave, I want to thank you for.
As the only guy who didn't serve at the table. The honor's been mine. Thank each of you guys for your service. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So once again, guys, make sure you check the description. We appreciate if you listen this long. Make sure you share this if you know veterans in the area or in your own area. It doesn't matter if you're in Ohio or anywhere in the nation. These kind of programs exist for everybody out there. And as a veteran myself and other veterans here sitting at the table, it's our job to keep that camaraderie together and help each other out as we did in the past. We must do so in the future. So once again, thank you guys all for your time this evening, for all listening. Everybody, good night, everybody.
Nothing off limits, just gotta say. Fight all day. Guys Night Podcast, let's ride the wave.